Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 695 Bold Advance. Night fell. A convoy was driving in the wilderness. In the armored command vehicle, Yukiya had kicked off his shoes and was lying lazily on a bench, yawning like a cat basking in the sun, and asked Hangluan to hand an envelope to Luoyan. Luoyan took it and heard Yukiya say, "It contains your next stage of the battle plan. I was going to send it to you by email. Since you are here, I won't waste my energy." Luoyan put down the envelope and looked at the woman lying lazily on the bench. "About Luou. Yukiya blinked. "Helping you is helping me. You're welcome. And I believe, Captain Shigi, you're not a fool. Now we are in the same boat, with common goals and interests. You won't be stupid enough to do something that hinders your team at a time like this. The one I really have to be wary of is not you, but Lin Yuanfang." After the failure of their Jumang tribe's operation in the Valley of Sorrow, Lin Yuanfang's strength plummeted, and he also lost a god general level machine. Now he is eager to replenish his strength. How to replenish strength quickly? Of course, that is to swallow up our Xuanming tribe. He took you away, just to test our relationship or to destroy our relationship. As long as we are at odds internally, it will be much easier for him to take action again. Luoyan nodded slightly. Yukiya smiled and said, "Look, Lin Yuanfang wants to alienate us. How dangerous it is. But if the two of us get together, it won't be so easy fall into an XR Xuanming department. So you really don't want to consider being my man?" Luoyan didn't expect her to talk about this kind of thing, and his two eyebrows under the mask couldn't help but frown together. Yukiya sighed and said, "Your reaction really makes me so sad. Am I really that unattractive?" Luoyan knew that this woman was teasing him again. Thinking of the many times he was teased by her before, Luoyan snorted softly in his nose and stood up. Seeing Luoyan stand up, Yukiya smiled mischievously. She supported her chin with one hand and tried to raise her head as much as possible. Then she showed her graceful and slender neck like a swan, as well as the rare and charming scenery under her collar, and looked at Luoyan with interest. Seeing this, Hangluan turned around quickly and picked up the blank electronic tactical board and kept swiping. Luoyan walked in front of Yukiya, bent down, and lifted her chin roughly. "I will consider your suggestion. But it's not that I'm your man. But you are my woman. Such a close distance." Luoyan's breath rushed to her face like a burning charcoal fire, with a slight smell of gunpowder and blood. Yukiya's eyelashes trembled slightly. She didn't expect that this time Luoyan would not retreat like before, but boldly rush forward. Both his actions and words were full of aggression. She was momentarily absent-minded and blank. When she reacted and wanted to fight back, Luoyan had already let her go, looked out the window and said, "Just stop here." A moment later, Luoyan drove away on a motorcycle. She sat up, leaned against the window, and watched the figure driving the motorcycle away. Yukiya's eyes flashed with a flash of light, and then he took out a cigarette from somewhere, lit it and blew out a smoke ring. "Don't tell anyone about what happened just now." Hangluan turned around, and her heavy chest trembled. "What happened just now?" Yukiya chuckled, then took another puff of cigarette, and then muttered, "Provocation? Humph, don't let me catch you next time, otherwise you will be in trouble." Back to Chunai base, Luoyan opened Yukiya's letter. There was a mobile storage device in the envelope. It contained the combat plan and strategic goals of Team 7 in the next stage. Next, Yukiya hoped that Luoyan would pursue Li Guang and his team and prevent them from joining Huang Quan's main force. The combat plan also included Li Guang's current coordinates. At present, this deserter was hiding in an abandoned city. Luoyan immediately called Guan Peng and Yang Heo and asked them to get ready and set off at dawn. Then he found Luou. This man escaped during the day and found Chunai base according to the navigation prompts. His injuries were mostly healed by Luoyan using the ghost life state, and he received further treatment at the Chunai base. Now he looked much better than during the day. "How are you?" Luo Yan asked, as soon as they met. Luo Yu shrugged his shoulders. I don't know what means you used to make me recover most of my injuries in an instant. I'm in pretty good shape now. If I meet those people this morning again, I can't beat them, but at least I can escape. Luo Yan nodded. Next we are going to hunt down Li Guang. It's best if you can move. Luo Yu's eyelids twitched. You want me to go down? Luo Yan asked back. What, you can't fight yet? Luo Yu moved his hands and feet and said, I guess I will lose more than I win if I meet a high level cultivator. I think I can deal with the others. But, are you too impatient? After all, I'm still a patient. Even if you want me to show the force field, there's no need to rush at this time, right? Luo Yan asked Luo Yu to take action. First of all, this guy is a high level cultivator himself. In the Chunyu base, his combat power is only second to himself. With him taking action, hunting down Li Guang will be much easier. Secondly, although he has now torn his face with Huang Quan, Luo Yan feels that he has to take another layer of insurance. If Luo Yu kills Li Guang's people, Huang Quan will never be able to go back, and Luo Yan will feel much more at ease. It's just a matter of time. Since you can take action, does it make any difference whether it's earlier or later? Luo Yan then changed the subject. Tell me about your leader, the one named Yinrang. Until now, we don't have any specific information about him. We don't even know what he looks like, or what he can do. Luo Yu's face was solemn. It's normal that you don't know. In fact, even those of us who have been in the north for some time have only met Commander Yinrang a few times. Luo Yan was slightly surprised. Why? How can you take action if you don't meet? The tasks that each of us is responsible for are directly assigned from the organization's task system. Luo Yu said. In other words, it doesn't matter whether Yinrang leads us or not. However, it is said that these tasks were designed by Yinrang. As for Yinrang's appearance, to be honest, I don't know. Every time we meet, he wears a mask like you. From his behavior, tone, and movements, he should be a calm middle-aged man. He has strong shoulders and sharp eyes. Although he wears a mask, every time we meet, we can feel an invisible majesty. Chapter 696, Letter of Submission. Like me, he likes to wear a mask. In other words, he can't show his face to others. He is keeping a secret. Luo Yan thought about it, and suddenly thought of a question, so he asked it. You just said that you met Yinrang a few times after you arrived in the Northern Territory. Then what about before you came to the Northern Territory? Weren't you under Yinrang's command? Luo Yu shook his head. People like us, to put it bluntly, are cannon fodder. Neither I nor Jiuying Hua and the others are top figures in the organization, or in our class. Everyone knows that the organization wants to develop the Northern Territory, and we are here to pave the way for those behind us. We are all just cannon fodder, used to test the strength of the Northern Territory. After we came to the Northern Territory, we were all under Yinrang's management. And Yinrang, it is said that he is also a cannon fodder, but his class is above ours. He came to the Northern Territory secretly a few years ago, and has been operating here for many years. We lost contact for some time before, and the organization thought he had met with an accident, but we got in touch again a few months later. We found out that he was trapped in a forbidden area, and it took a lot of effort for him to escape. As for Yinrang's ability, unfortunately, I have never seen him take action. But judging from the oppressive feeling he gave me, Yinrang must be a strong man in the Tangxuan realm. There is no doubt about that. Luo Yan's eyes flashed with circles of silver light, reading Luo Zi's thoughts, and confirming what he said. Confirming that this man was not lying. Okay. Luo Yan stood up and said, you rest, we will set off at dawn. Luo Zi said, if you want me to go, you have to prepare a weapon for me. A spear or a sword will do. But it's better to have a spear. I dropped my own when I broke through, and now I don't have a weapon that can be used. Luo Yan nodded, indicating that he would keep it in mind. The next day, he delivered an alloy war spear to Luo Zi. Luo Zi made a few shots and nodded, saying, although it's not as good as my old one, it's not bad for killing a few intermediate realms. So, when do we set out? Now. Asterisk at 6 in the morning, a heavy rain fell, leaving the ground of this long abandoned city covered with mud mixed with gravel. Li Guang stood by a window, looking at the city washed by the heavy rain. In the oncoming wind, in addition to the fresh air after the rain, there was also the earthy smell of mud and dust. For some reason, looking at the city outside the window, he felt vaguely uneasy. It was as if a giant beast was lurking in the city, hiding in a corner, looking at him with a grim look. This was the feeling of being regarded as prey. Although there was no direct evidence, Li Guang thought that he might be targeted. The Black Witch's troops had arrived. Li Guang immediately raised his hand and swiped and tapped on the electronic tactical board on his arm. Orders were sent to the second level officers through the tactical board, and then these officers would pass the orders down layer by layer and finally notify the entire army. This team that evacuated from Chunyu base and exiled in the wilderness for several days quickly took action and prepared to move. Li Guang's gravel-stained hands clenched into a fist. He looked in the direction of Chunyu base, full of reluctance. After coming to the north, he was entrusted by the commander Yinrang to work hard in Chunyu base. In more than half a year, Chunyu base has been managed to its current scale. Therefore, he was also valued by Yinrang. He became the confidant of the commander known as the Poisonous Snake. But a few days ago, Chunyu base fell. Not only did they lose most of their men, but even Jiuying was not taken away. Li Guang never thought that Jiuying could not get away. This should not have happened. Jiuying has a team of Hell Vanguards and Ghost General Kazuan around him. With such a force, unless he encounters a strong man in the Tangxuan realm, he should be able to walk sideways. Now not only did Jiuying not withdraw, but also lost the precious Shibi corpse blood essence. It is not difficult for Li Guang to imagine what kind of anger he will endure when facing Yinrang. At this moment, a ball of orange light suddenly lit up in the depths of the distant city. Then there was a scream not far outside the building, followed by a dull gunshot from afar. Sniper. Moreover, the sentry he had arranged outside the building was discovered and sniped. Li Guang's pupils shrank sharply. At the same time, at different locations, the flames of sniper rifles flashed one after another, and then screams and gunshots intertwined, constantly echoing in this city that began to be infected by the morning light. Li Guang took a deep breath and turned around. Just as he turned around, the roar of guns, the shouts of people, the roar of engines, and all kinds of sounds, like rolling thunder under thick clouds, approached quickly. One convoy after another, like a stream flowing over a rocky mountain stream, passed by tall buildings and roads. Attacked towards Li Guang's location. Just behind those convoys, there were several mechs half kneeling on the ground, and the drivers in the mechs were ready to go at any time. In the mecha Jingwei intercepted from Huangquan, Yang Tao, who was driving a mecha for the first time to participate in the battle, was so nervous that his palms were full of sweat. On the rooftop of a building, the mecha butcher stood next to it, and Luo Yan stood on the rooftop. He held a telescope and watched his men start to attack, letting the flames and gunpowder burn on the enemy's position one after another. Moving the telescope, Luo Yan saw Luo Yu in one of the convoys. He sat in the car, his lips tightly pursed, and the alloy wargun was at hand. When this convoy rushed into the enemy's position, Luo Yu did not take his alloy spear, but picked up an automatic rifle. He stood up, stepped on the control console, raised his gun and fired. So wherever this off-road vehicle passed, Li Guang's sentinels kept spitting blood arrows and died on Luo Yu's car. After killing several sentinels in succession, someone on the third floor of an office building in front of him poked his head out and fired a rocket launcher at the off-road vehicle where Luozi was. A strange whistle sounded in the sky, and the shell spewed flames and shot quickly. Luozi did not hesitate and jumped off the car. He stretched out his foot and hooked his long gun into the air and caught it with his hand. As soon as it fell to the ground, there was an earth-shattering explosion behind him. Luozi rolled a few times, stood up, and patted off the flaming fragments that fell on his body. When he looked up again, he saw that the gunner who had no more shells threw away the rocket launcher and jumped directly from the third floor. When he fell to the ground, the man drew out a long knife with a cold glow from behind his back and said in a deep voice, "I recognize you. Your surname is Luo. You are the backbone of the Zan class. Are you crazy? You are killing your own people." Luo Yu was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He turned his head to look at the rooftop where Luo Yan was in the distance. Then he mobilized his energy, pointed his rifle, and charged forward while firing. Chapter 697, Butcher vs. Overlord. The man who bombarded Luozi with a rocket launcher was an elite soldier under Li Guang named Meng Tuo. Although he was a level lower than Luozi, he was very brave. The long sword in his hand danced tightly and deflected all the oncoming bullets. Ding ding dang dang. The sound kept ringing. Soon Luozi had emptied his magazine and smashed his rifle. Meng Tuo shouted and chopped down with his long sword, first splitting the rifle in half. Then he tiptoed forward and made a fierce upward thrust, with the blade slashing towards Luozi's waist. Luozi had a sneer on his face and pressed his long spear upward. The blade of the alloy war spear went from top to bottom and resisted Meng Tuo's long sword. Meng Tuo had no expression on his face. He slid with his sword, and his left hand wiped behind his waist, bringing out a short sword to cut towards the corner of Luozi's eyes. Luozi held the spear horizontally and used it as a stick to block Meng Tuo's short sword. Then he flicked his wrist, and the spear bounced up, with the tip of the spear poking at Meng Tuo's throat. At this time, Luozi's chest was aching slightly. After all, his injuries had not healed. If he started to fight at this time, it would inevitably tear the wound. Suddenly, the sharp shot was slightly delayed. Meng Tuo shouted, his eyes shot out sharp light, and his head tilted to the side to avoid the shot. Then he chopped with his two swords, bringing up pieces of knife light and covering Luozi. Luozi groaned, bursting out with all his strength, and the alloy war spear rushed forward like a wild python. The tip of the spear shook and reflected the sunlight like a brilliant spark. The silver spearhead drove straight into the sky full of knife light, licking Meng Tuo's flesh and blood crazily. Although Meng Tuo was brave, he was still one level lower than Luozi. The surnamed Luo became serious, and Meng Tuo's neck, chest, thighs, etc. instantly spurted out 6 or 7 balls of blood mist, and there were several more blood red holes. Luo Yan raised his spear and Meng Tuo flew up. When he landed on the ground, he had turned into a corpse. Luo Yan then put away his spear and turned around, walking towards the enemy camp in front with a gloomy face. On the rooftop, Luo Yan put down the telescope and heard a rumbling sound. Then, 2 huge figures like gods emerged from the city in the distance. Mecha. 2 mechs, 1 grey and 1 red. Both are Zhuangji. The grey one is a mid-level mecha, hanging many hot weapons, and it looks like it should have strong firepower. The red one has a mighty shape and heavy armor. He holds a large shield in his left hand and a huge iron spear in his right hand, which is full of oppression. These are the 2 mechas in Chunai base. Let's not talk about the grey one. The red one is Li Guang's vehicle, named Overlord. Seeing the Overlord attack, Luo Yan put on his helmet and said calmly, "Leave the Overlord to me, and you guys can handle the rest." As he spoke, Luo Yan had already entered the cockpit of the Butcher, connected the empathy system, and started the mecha. The Butcher was Liu Zio's mecha. After Luo Yan got it, it was repaired and modified, and could participate in the battle. The original weapon used by the Butcher was a giant axe, but Luo Yan was not used to using an axe, so he used an alloy sword instead. This sword was long and heavy, and it felt similar to the dragon elephant. Luo Yan was used to operating it. It was just that the Butcher was a heavy mecha, and it felt heavy to operate, and compared to the Bion, the body quality was more than 1 level lower. Although Luo Yan had practiced, he still didn't feel so good after starting the mecha. Outside the panoramic window, Li Guang's Overlord and another enemy plane began to approach. Luo Yan's mind moved, and blood light appeared around the Butcher, turning into a whirlpool that kept spinning. Blood transformation sutra. At the same time, the Butcher's body suddenly seemed to bleed, and a thick blood light emerged and spread, covering a large area of the street. The ground was no longer visible in the place, covered by the blood light, and an illusory blood pool emerged. Secret method, blood pagoda. Activate the method, unfold the secret method. Luo Yan was not polite and tightened the floating point controller, and the Butcher took a big step and charged forward in the rolling blood. In the cab of the Overlord, Li Guang groaned, fearless, and also controlled the mecha to meet him. He also used the secret method, and a red gold light suddenly appeared around the Overlord. This light gave people an extremely sharp feeling, as if you get close, you will be pierced by it. In a blink of an eye, the two mechas were less than 100 meters apart. Luo Yan attacked first. The alloy sword slashed through the air, and the blade released a distorted and blurred blood-colored ripple. Sword key. The sword key crossed the blood pool and slashed towards the Overlord. The red mecha suddenly raised its shield. Boom. Amidst the dull sound of the collision that made people's teeth ache, the shield of the Overlord was slashed to the side by the sword key. At this time, the blood pool was surging, and suddenly 3 blood blades followed one after another. One hit the shield of the Overlord, one was shattered by the huge giant spear, and only one hit the waist armor of the Overlord, but most of its power was blocked by the surrounding red gold light. The Overlord just shook and rushed across the blood pool. The iron spear rolled up a bad wind and stabbed at Luo Yan's body. When the two advanced mechas began to fight together, the 3 mechas of the Red Gate also began to fight with the grey mecha of the Chunyu base. The grey mecha had fierce firepower, and it was equipped with several weapon platforms, from missiles to machine guns. Seeing the 3 mechas of the Red Gate approaching, the grey mecha immediately opened fire. Missiles roared at the opponent, and at the same time, from the rifle in his hand to the machine gun on his shoulder, he took out almost all the weapons in his hand, not sparing any ammunition. In just 5 or 6 seconds, including Yang Tao's Jingwei, they had to face the threat of missiles and a large number of bullets. Other mechas adopted evasive tactics, and if they couldn't avoid it, they would carry shields to block it. Yang Tao was a student taught by Luo Yan after all. When he saw that the situation was not good, the Jingwei suddenly flashed and moved hundreds of meters away in an instant, making the enemy plane's large number of bullets fall in vain. Only 2 missiles had tracking functions, and they turned in the air and chased the Jingwei again. After using the dragonfly touching the water to pull away, the Jingwei punched the incoming missiles again. The fist tip turned into a pink lotus, which floated towards the 2 missiles and hit one of them. While detonating the missile, the lotus also burst into countless pink streamers, detonating the other missile. Boom. 2 balls of fire appeared a few hundred meters away from the Jingwei. In the cockpit, Yang Tao's eyes were focused, and her hands holding the floating point controller turned pale due to nervousness. She immediately used the secret method, opening the ghost wheel, and then dodged behind the buildings, using the cover of the buildings to sneak around and attack the enemy planes from behind. The other 2 old-fashioned mechas received Yang Tao's notice and knew that the little girl was going to launch a sneak attack, so they were responsible for attracting the enemy's firepower. The chaplain rivets equipped on the 2 mechas were activated to reinforce the mechas, so that they could carry large shields to resist attacks. At the same time, one of the mechas picked up a dark red rocket launcher with a dragon head shape. Zah. Mechas use rocket launchers. Use high explosive and high incendiary shells. Chapter 698, Jingwei's first battle. In the grey and white mystery, the Mecha Master wore a special helmet with 7 eyeballs on it. These electronic eyes can assist the Mecha Master and provide a global perspective, allowing this mecha with fierce firepower to have a high degree of control over the battlefield. The Mecha Master had a smile on his face. Although the Jingwei had turned on the anti-mecha reconnaissance system, he could not see the Jingwei on the radar now, but from the global perspective provided by the electronic eyes, he knew very well that the Jingwei was touching behind him, waiting for an opportunity to move. Come on, little thing. I have prepared a big treasure for you. The Mecha Master grinned. At this time, in one of the visions, a dark red light spot flew towards him in the sky of artillery fire, at a very fast speed. Almost in the blink of an eye, it was already in front of him. The Mecha Master was stunned for a moment, his eyes twitched, and his intuition told him that this shell was not simple. Although except for the Jingwei, the other 2 were old-fashioned mechas, the pilot of the Chunyu base did not take the other party seriously at all. But at this moment, the dark red shell made his nerves suddenly tense. A term jumped into his mind. High explosive and high incendiary shells. This kind of shells has added special incendiary agents, and is extremely powerful. It is particularly effective against fire-fearing, fire-weak, and caterpillar-like giants. It can also be used to destroy the giant's living circle. but because of the harsh storage conditions and the serious pollution, it is no longer used now. But now, it appears right in front of us. Although it is an obsolete thing, this kind of explosive bomb is powerful and overbearing, like an unreasonable and reckless man. If you get involved, there is really no reason to talk. He did not expect that he would encounter this kind of shell that was eliminated by the times, and he did not predict it in time, which immediately put him in trouble. There is no good way to deal with this kind of shell. It is best to stay away from the bombardment point immediately when the opponent launches, otherwise you have to suppress it with the advantages of the machine. But the reason why the Xuanji can be evaluated as an intermediate machine is that most of the data comes from the weapon platforms hanging on various parts of the machine. If these factors are left aside, the Xuanji is only a primary machine. There was no advantage to the machine at all. Seeing that he could not dodge, the Mecha Master gritted his teeth, deflected the muzzle of the rifle in his hand, and an armor-piercing bullet met the dark red shell. Then a bright white light bloomed in front of his eyes, and the panoramic window was white. At this time, the overall vision became a drag, and the Mecha Master instantly suffered a huge visual impact. He screamed, and even if he closed his eyes were burning with pain. In addition, the impact of the explosive bomb explosion washed over his body like a hurricane. Through the empathy system, the driver felt as if his chest was hit by a heavy hammer. The sensor on his chest flashed for a while, and his blood almost froze, and his brain was blank for a short time. Behind the gray-white machine, behind the building a block away, Jingwei seized the opportunity to rush out. Yang Tao bit his lips nervously, looking out of the panoramic window. The enemy plane retreated again and again. The bursting flames made its surface bumpy. A large number of weapon platforms showed signs of melting, and the inside of the machine was even burning with electric fire. The buildings around them fell like straw. The street lamps, car wreckage, and public facilities on the ground were all burning with flames and melting. The temperature was extremely high. Even with the heat insulation of the mecha, Yang Tao still felt like she was diving into a fire pit. She did not dare to neglect it. She controlled the Jingwei and approached the enemy plane silently with the blessing of the secret method of Kiaolan. In the mecha's hand, a short knife was raised, and a series of smoky knife lights hung on the weak points of the grey-white body's armor. In an instant, Yang Tao chopped 7 or 8 times, and the Jingwei passed by the enemy plane, like a swift flying through a storm, flashing out of the sea of fire. The mecha turned on the ground, and its feet slid across the ground. The road surface rumbled and shattered, and the gravel splashed out with the bounced street lamps and car wreckage, falling all around. The Jingwei stopped, and white mist immediately spurted out from all parts of the body. This was the coolant, which quickly lowered the temperature of the body surface and ensured that the core circuits and devices would not overheat and explode. Looking at the grey-white body in the flames, after Yang Tao's chasing the wind and shadow chopped it several times, the body began to fall apart, exploded, and fell into the flames. Only then did Yang Tao breathe a sigh of relief, and sweat covered her face. This was the first real war she participated in driving a mecha. Now that she was relaxed, Yang Tao felt that her heart was about to jump out of her throat. She was so nervous that her hands were trembling slightly, but she was filled with strong joy and pride. She wanted to tell the teacher as soon as possible, but she saw Luo Yan and the enemy's body fighting fiercely. Between the two bodies, a large burst of sparks exploded, and a building collapsed. In the cab of the butcher, Luo Yang had a blank expression on his face, and his eyes were shining with silver. In his field of vision, a light model that was no different from the Overlord was making various movements. With the support of a large amount of information provided by the silver eyes of the peeping Dao, especially the analysis of the target's surface veins, the accuracy of the profit calculation model is as high as 90%. This makes it much easier for Luo Yan, who is not used to the clumsiness of the butcher and is not yet proficient in controlling it. After the two mechas staggered once, Luo Yan foresaw and controlled the butcher to turn and slide, avoiding the attack from the Overlord from behind. The huge giant spear of the Overlord turned into a rich red gold light and passed in front of the butcher. Under Luo Yan's control, the butcher raised the alloy longsword, turned into a lightning, and slashed it down, hitting the middle of the huge giant spear. Li Guang immediately heard a sharp sound in his ears and saw that his iron spear was pressed down by Luo Yan's sword. Then the butcher stepped on the iron spear and raised his long sword from bottom to top. At this time, several blood blades came late, and they broke after hitting the Overlord. While causing the impact, they also left pieces of dark rust on the armor of the Overlord. Blood evil. These dark rusts can be seen everywhere on the Overlord, corroding the armor of the body. However, the red gold light around the Overlord resisted the erosion of the blood evil, which seemed to be the effect of some secret method. At this time, the butcher's long sword was about to hit the Overlord's head, but a large shield blocked the blade in time. Luo Yan's sword only drew a spark on the shield, leaving a harsh sound. Then the Overlord's shield swept away the sword and rushed forward again, but the butcher had retreated on his own, so the Overlord only smashed a few blood blades. At this time, the blood pool began to boil and roar, and then in the center of the blood pool, an illusory ancient tower base with stone steps, a gate, and stone carvings rose up. The blood blade 30 hits were completed. The blood ceremony was activated. Chapter 699, A Trial. As the core symbol of the secret method Blood Pagoda, when blood offering is activated, layers of pagodas will appear according to the number of attacks of the blood blade. There will be a maximum of 7 layers of pagodas. Each layer of pagoda will increase the speed, attack power and attack range of the secret method user. After the first layer of pagoda appeared, Luo Yan only felt the blood in his body roaring, and the hot power like magma surged throughout his body. He controlled Butcher to raise the alloy sword, first passed through the blood pool in front of him, picked up the blood plasma, and then slashed at Overlord through the air. Boom. A red lightning as thick as a mountain fell and exploded on the top of Overlord, causing Li Guang to bear a heavy blow. After the lightning struck the mecha, the electric light overflowed and turned into pieces of blurred twisted ripples, tearing all the nearby buildings or public facilities into pieces. Combat skills, sword moving wind and thunder. With the improvement of blood offering, the attack power and attack range of this combat skill have been significantly improved. In the cockpit of the mecha, Li Guang gnashed his teeth. He knew that it was not real lightning, but extremely sharp and powerful sword energy. Under the impact of this sharp and powerful sword energy, he was suppressed with his ability. He could only take complete defense, and could not take action immediately after the attack. This gave the blood blades that rose up from the boiling blood pool an opportunity to take advantage. Compared with before, the outlines of these blood blades were undoubtedly much more solid, and the speed increased. Almost as soon as they appeared, they hit the Overlord, and the impact was much stronger than before. The explosion made the Overlord retreat again and again. The iron spear in the mecha's hand cut a long gash on the ground, which made the Overlord stop. Li Guang noticed the layer of tower base that emerged in the middle of the blood pool. His intuition told him that the power of the opponent's combat skill blood blade suddenly increased, which was related to this layer of tower base. He snorted, and the iron spear swung, rolling up a ball of red gold light, and stabbed at the butcher who was rushing over. Suddenly, a golden light flashed like a long needle. Even though Luo Yan had predicted the opponent's attack and made an evasive move, the bulky body and the lack of skill in operation still caused the golden needle light to hit the armor on the left shoulder of the butcher. Puff Luo Yan's pupils shrank slightly. The penetrating power of Li Guang's golden needle light was so strong that it even broke through the mecha's energy layer and heavy armor, leaving a small cut on the butcher's shoulder. Then the cut suddenly burst, stretching the gap and letting the shoulder fragments fly around. At the same time, the Overlord swung the iron spear, and his momentum suddenly rose. The red gold light that enveloped the whole body suddenly rose up and turned into red gold dragon bodies. There were 9 dragon bodies in total, as strong as the sea of clouds. These illusory red gold dragons were fierce, with flying dragon whiskers, bared teeth and claws, and amazing momentum. It was unknown whether Li Guang used some secret method or unique skills. The iron spear of the Overlord mecha was raised, and the 9 dragons opened their mouths and spit out infinite red gold light, which fell from the sky, surged from the bottom of the blood pool, and swept from all directions. And the center of this red tide was naturally Luo Yan's butcher. But seeing this red gold light tide passing through the building, one building after another collapsed and disintegrated like a hot knife cutting butter. That's not all. The red tide was surging and surging, splashing a bunch of golden light needles, shooting the building fragments into thousands of holes. In the cab, Luo Yan's hand holding the floating point controller tightened slightly. Looking out from the panoramic window, the overwhelming red gold sharp tide surrounded him. He seemed to be a bird in a cage, with nowhere to escape. Li Guang laughed to himself. Now I see where you can go. At this time, he saw the butcher raise the alloy-long knife after a moment of silence, and slashed at the red gold light tide that was as boundless as the sea. The blade spread out a blurry blood-colored ripple. The knife energy. This knife energy passed through the light tide. With a sizzling sound, the light tide first tore open a hole, and then with a bang, a huge hole was blown open. Li Guang's eyes almost fell out. How could this happen? He knew that Luo Yan's attack was now more powerful, but now this light tide was the result of secret methods and unique skills. It is impossible to cause such damage so easily. Of course, Li Guang didn't know that this result was caused because Luo Yan found the flaw in his attack. Just now, the silver eyes of the peeping Dao had completed the analysis of Li Guang's surface veins. This allowed the prophet light body to quickly find the flaws in the light tide. And there are many flaws like this in this light tide that is like a raging sea. This shows that Li Guang's skill is far from being polished enough. But Luo Yan will not be polite to him. The sword energy is continuously blasted out, and each attack is accompanied by a blood blade pursuit. Bang, 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 bang. One after another huge hole appeared in succession, and the explosion sound lasted for a long time. Although this red gold light tide is endless, it was also blasted into pieces of holes by Luo Yan. When these holes are connected to each other, the figure of the overlord is immediately exposed to Luo Yan's sight. At the same time, the butcher dragged the knife and sprinted. The heavy steps made the ground under the blood pool arch and undulate, spreading cracks. When these cracks spread to the surrounding buildings, those buildings that were basically only left with frames suddenly fell to the ground. The heavy mecha tore through the air with its steel body, tearing out long waves of air. The waves made crackling sounds when they surged, like the surging of river water. In a blink of an eye, the butcher rushed through the gap of the golden light tide. The golden light tide closed behind the mecha and surrounded it, colliding and merging into a beam of light that shot up into the sky. But it could not hurt the butcher who pounced on Li Guang. Li Guang roared and chopped down with the iron spear. The 9 red gold dragons behind the mecha roared and rushed immediately, like a flood that broke through the dam, intersecting and colliding with each other, trying to wash away and strangle the butcher. However, the figure of the butcher flickered from time to time, or took a step inexplicably. But between the flickering figure of the mecha and the step taken by the mecha, it can always find a safe gap in the rolling torrent. This operation made Li Guang's eyes almost fall out. Seeing the butcher first drowned in the flood, and suddenly emerged again, Li Guang felt cold all over, not knowing why his opponent suddenly became so evil. He didn't care about much, and used the iron spear to make a wonderful killing move. Now Li Guang didn't want to kill the enemy, but only hoped to force the butcher away. But at this time, the butcher took another step sideways, and stepped into the blind spot of Li Guang's attack. Li Guang turned his head, and saw the opponent's alloy blade expanding outside the panoramic window from the corner of his eye. Finally, the panoramic window shattered, and a section of the knife tip stabbed in, splitting Li Guang's vision in two. Chapter 700 Cleaning up the battlefield. When the alloy longsword was drawn out, the overlord, whose panoramic window was broken, knelt down, and the large shield and iron spear in the mecha's hands fell to the ground one after another, shaking the ground. There were electric sparks on the head of the mecha, and choking smoke rose. In the cab of the butcher, Luo Yan finally released his hands from the floating point controller, took off his helmet, and rubbed his temples on both sides. This was his first time to use the silver eyes of peeping in actual combat. Whether it was analyzing Li Guang's surface veins, or using the prophet to deduce and find his flaws, it was quite exhausting. However, the result made Luo Yan quite satisfied. After analyzing the surface veins, the silver eyes of peeping allowed Luo Yan to look down on the opponent from a high level, observe the opponent from a detached height, and find the opponent's flaws. Using this flaw, Luo Yan could easily break Li Guang's unique skills, tear open a gap under the attack with almost no blind spots, and escape. Otherwise, he could only fight against the opponent's unique skills, or defend with all his strength. But no matter which choice you make, it will not be as easy as before. It is precisely because of finding Li Guang's flaw that Luo Yan was able to take down the Overlord Mecha at the lowest cost. Otherwise, even if Li Guang is defeated now, the Overlord Mecha will not be as simple as the panoramic window being damaged and some of the equipment in the cab being destroyed. Of course, it is also because he wants to take down the Overlord Mecha that Luo Yan has to work so hard. Otherwise, within 3 steps of the Overlord, he can completely use 10 steps and 1 kill to solve this mecha. Now, Li Guang's biological grey light has disappeared. After Luo Yan took a brief look, he put on his helmet again, then turned on the body sound peripherals and spoke. Listen, people at Chunai base, your supervisor Li Guang is dead. Don't resist in vain, surrender. The voice kept echoing over the battlefield, covering the sound of artillery and gunfire, and clearly reaching everyone's hands. Hearing this, Luo Yan was the first to stop. He wiped the sweat off his face, sat down, took out the kettle, and drank water silently. When the staff of Chunai base heard these words, everyone's face turned pale, and they were very depressed. The scene of Boang kneeling on the ground with smoke coming out of his head was like a sledgehammer hitting their chests. When they saw the 3 mechs including Jiuying coming forward and pointing various weapons at the battlefield, they lost the will to resist. There was no leader, and the enemy had an absolute advantage. Under such circumstances, it was normal for morale to be low and fighting spirit to be lost. So the next thing was much simpler. Yang Hao led his men to confiscate the weapons of Chunai base first, and then detained the prisoners first. Luo Yan first put out the fire of Boang, and then loaded the mecha and weapons into a carrier, and sent it back to Chunai base. A team of mecha maintenance personnel among the prisoners were sent back with the mecha. Luo Yan promised that they could get the original treatment, and as long as they did not escape, they would have personal freedom in the base. So the maintenance team, including the 2 mecha engineers, all obediently switched sides with Luo Yan and followed the transporter back to the base to repair the Overlord. Cleaning up the battlefield, Luo Yan got off the butcher and the mecha was being inspected and maintained. He took off his helmet and took the water bottle handed over by Yang Hao. He saw Yang Tao next to him with sparkling eyes, looking at him expectantly. Luo Yan moistened his throat and called Yang Tao over. Yang Tao jumped over excitedly and looked at Luo Yan nervously. You did a good job. Whether it was the timing of the attack or the decisiveness when taking action, these performances were remarkable. The rest is only the accumulation of practical experience, the improvement of the practice of skills, and the enrichment of secret combat skills. I have laid the general framework for you. How far you can go in the future depends on you. Luo Yan was not stingy in praising his students. He knew that this was a great encouragement to Yang Tao. Yang Tao's face flushed when she heard it, and she nodded vigorously, with tears in her eyes. She remembered that she was just a weak survivor on the surface. If she hadn't met the teacher, she might have been buried in the wilderness. But now, the teacher has laid a framework for her. As long as she keeps filling in various details in this framework, she can walk a completely different path from before. It can be said that this kindness is like having a reborn parent. Yang Tao was grateful, clenched her hands into fists, and whispered, Teacher, I will continue to work hard and live up to your expectations. Luo Yan smiled, feeling a little sense of accomplishment, and nodded. Take a rest. If you are free in the next 2 days, I will teach you another secret method. Kalan wheel. Yang Tao blinked. Mr. Yang's one. Luo Yan nodded. These 2 secret methods are related to each other. Kalan wheel can burst out Yuanli, allowing you to greatly increase your attack power in a short period of time. If you switch to Kalan wheel after Kia wheel, the explosive power of Kalan wheel will increase greatly. Of course, the consumption of Yuanli will also increase. So you have to practice diligently and increase the amount of Yuanli. In this way, you will be much more calm on the battlefield in the future. Study hard. If you are talented and diligent enough, I will teach you everything I know. Yang Tao's head nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. At this time, Guan Pen came over. The middle-aged man was full of the smell of gunpowder and handed a box to Luo Yan. Mr. Chiggy, this is what those people from Chunyu base handed in. They said it was something Li Guang carried with him. They thought the things inside must be very important, so they took the initiative to hand it in. Luo Yan said, oh, and said, where are the people who handed it in? Over there. Guan Peng waved, come here. A moment later, 3 people came to Luo Yan. Luo Yan opened his divine treasure and took a look at them. These 3 people were Song Chang, Zhang Yun, and Shen Kan. They were all elites of the Black Rope class, and their realms were respectively the intermediate Great Perfection, the intermediate 5th level, and the intermediate 3rd level. Luo Yan didn't look at the box, but looked at the 3 people and said, I admire your attitude. I also feel your sincerity. As long as you work hard for me, you will have what you should have in Huangquan. What you don't have, I have it here. The 3 looked at each other, then gritted their teeth, and said in unison, we will go through fire and water for Mr. Chiggy. Luo Yang nodded gently, and then assigned the 3 people to the teams around Guanpeng, Yang Heo and himself. Song Chang is a middle-aged man with a white face and no beard. He looks very delicate, like a university lecturer. He has the level of intermediate Great Perfection. Guanpeng and Yang Heo can't suppress him, so Luo Yan keeps him by his side. Moreover, this man is Li Guang's confidant and knows Li Guang very well. Keeping him by his side will also make it easier to understand some of the situations of Li Guang and Chunyu base. But now, Luo Yan is more interested in the box left by Li Guang. What is in it? Li Guang must take it with him when he evacuates the base. Chapter 701, Sharing the Same Boat. After a while, the opened box was placed beside Luo Yan. There were quite a few things inside, which were sorted by Luo Yan. The things Li Guang brought with him were a personal notebook, a base diary, a set of cultivation potions, some letters, and a mobile hard disk that stored information on unique skills, secret methods, and combat skills. Luo Yan first flipped through the personal notebook. The notebook was quite thick, and at least half of the content was about the southern border. Generally speaking, it was not important. It could only be seen that Li Guang joined Huangquan after the natural disaster, from a small soldier at the beginning to his current position. It recorded the people or things he encountered in the past few years. The people recorded in the notebook were all those who had offended him or harmed him. The things were trivial and nothing worth noting. The things about infiltration in the north occupied less than a quarter of this thick notebook. From the notebook, it can be seen that Li Guang was dissatisfied with being transferred to the north at first, but after arriving in the north, he was valued by Yinrong and cultivated vigorously in less than a year. His combat power, status, and position have all improved by leaps and bounds. From the words in the notes, it can be seen that he is very grateful to Yinrong, but at the same time he is somewhat dissatisfied. He feels that, although Yinrong has cultivated him, he still does not trust him, and there is still an invisible barrier between the two. It can be seen that Yinrong only trusts himself, and even keeps a certain distance from his confidants. Luo Yan also looked through the base diary. There was no particularly important information, so he put it aside, and planned to hand it in later, to convert it into contribution points. Luo Yan himself accepted the set of training potions. According to the potion instructions, the effect is similar to the Yuan enhancer, but the name is different. Finally, there is the mobile hard drive. After reading the contents, Luo Yan was slightly disappointed. Li Guang is a good gunman, so one of the unique skills in it is also a gun skill, which has no effect on people like him who are used to using swords. The combat skills are also mostly gun skills, with only one fist and palm, but Luo Yan's unique skills include broken mountains and rivers, and the combat skills include 100 flowers killing and broken bones. There is no need to learn other fist and palm techniques. The secret techniques are okay, and can make the attack more penetrating, but Luo Yan has learned a lot of secret techniques. In order to avoid biting off more than he can chew, Luo Yan did not plan to practice it himself after recording the information on the cultivation of the golden mangju. Instead, he thought of rewarding his subordinates in the future. Now he has passed the stage where he needs a lot of combat skills and secret techniques to enrich himself. especially after seeing Yukioshu's performance. Luo Yan felt that his future path should be like Yukioshu, with his own divine treasure as a core. Carefully select techniques, footwork, combat skills, and unique skills to match them, so as to achieve the effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2, instead of learning everything once. Even now, his divine treasure is still in constant transformation. It is not yet known what height he will eventually reach, so Luo Yan is not in a hurry to determine his future fighting style. He believes that Yukioshu also spent a lot of time to find a combination that suits him. After packing up, Luo Yan went to see the captives, made a promise, and then recruited these captives and placed them in various teams. In a blink of an eye, it was already dark. Luo Yan found Luo Yu with a heavy weapon war gun found next to Li Guang's body in the cab of the Overlord. "How is your injury?" Luo Yan threw the war gun to him. "You also use a gun. It should be better than the one in your hand." Luo Yu took it, shook it twice, and accepted it with satisfaction. "I started fighting today, which involved the wound, but it doesn't matter. But next, 2 high intensity battles may not be so handy." He was not deliberately slacking off, but it was the truth. Luo Yan nodded and didn't force him, and Luo Yu performed well today, killing his own people without hesitation. Now, this man can't go back to the Yellow Spring at all, and he can tie him tightly to his chariot. A higher level cultivator is a valuable asset to Luo Yan. At least that's the case for now. Luo Yan sat down and said, "I'll have someone heal your wounds. In the next battle, you will be responsible for dealing with some guys in the intermediate realm." Luo Yu smiled, nodded, and then said, "Regarding Yinrong, you'd better be careful. That guy once told us that he has a spy among your black wizards, and it seems to be from the Jumang tribe." "Spying? Jumang tribe?" Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly in the mask. "Why are you telling me now?" Luo Yu held the gun and spread his hands. "People always have to keep some trump cards for themselves. Who knows what will happen in the next second? In short, I couldn't trust you too much before. But it's different now. I have no way back. I can only follow you. Since we are on the same boat, of course I don't want this boat to capsize." Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "What else do you know? It's better to confess now, lest the boat really capsizes, and you regret it then." Luo Yu waved his hands. "That's all, really. This is my last trump card." Of course Luo Yan would not believe him just like that. Silver light appeared in his eyes. He asked Luo Yan several more questions to confirm that this guy had no reservations before he gave up. "You should take a rest." After leaving, Luo Yan called Yukioshu. The call was quickly connected. Yukioshu's lazy voice rang out. "Why are you calling me now? What's wrong? Captain Chigi missed me?" Luo Yan ignored her ridicule and said in a deep voice, "Yinrong has spies in the Jumang tribe." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and then Yukioshu's voice became serious. "I know. This matter, you and I only need to know. Don't spread it." Luo Yan agreed and hung up the phone. He stood at the window, looking at the vast night outside. When the coordinates of the captain's meeting were leaked before, Luo Yan suspected that someone in the Black Witch had leaked the news. Now from the information provided by Luo Yan, this speculation has been confirmed. However, who in the Jumang tribe would collude with the Huangquan? Could it be Lin Yuanfang? Also on this night, people were in a tent. Yukioshu put down her phone. In front of her, Hangluan was spreading out a map and drawing some movement arrows on it. She stopped from time to time, showing a listening expression, and then made some marks on the map. Sometimes she had to lie on the map and stretch her arms to draw these marks on specific locations. So from Yukioshu's angle, Hangluan's chest squeezed out amazing shapes on the map from time to time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 702, The Miserable Soldier. "Captain, I finished drawing it." Hangluan stood up and walked aside. Yukioshu came to the table. The arrows on the map detailed the routes of action of the Zuanming department in recent times, including Team 1, Several teams of the Zuanming department successively broke through the positions of Huangquan. The living space of Huangquan was continuously compressed. Especially after Team 1 and Team 7 took down the 2 bases of Huangquan, the Huangquan organization completely lost its support in the north. Although the people of Huangquan have now merged into a considerable force, they have also been forced into a desperate situation. To destroy them, all that is left is the last battle. Yukiashu stretched out his hand and tapped lightly on the table. Hearing Hangluan say, "Captain Chigi is really strong. I didn't expect that their Team 7 could really take down the Chunyu base. If the Chunyu base is not taken down, Huangquan will have a strong counter-attack force. At that time, they can attack or defend, and we will go from active to passive. Besides, I just received the battle report. Captain Chigi not only killed Li Guang and disabled Yinrang's left and right arms, but also confiscated Li Guang's mecha. If Li Guang's troops are allowed to join Yinrang, it may not be so easy to win the final battle. Captain, after the battle, you must reward Captain Chigi well. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid this war would not be so smooth." Yukiashu nodded. Yes, it would be difficult for our Team 1 alone to fight on 2 fronts and capture 2 bases at the same time. If the Jumang tribe is involved, the bulk of the credit will be taken by Lin Yuanfang. So you are right, Captain Chigi did help me a lot. How do you think we should reward him? Otherwise, give you to him? Hangluan let out a soft ah, then looked down at her chest. It's not impossible. I'll listen to the captain. Bah. Yukiashu said unhappily. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. What do you mean by listening to me? You even want me to send you to Chigi's bed right now? Hangluan said with a smile. I'm not young anymore. If I don't find someone to marry, no one will want me. Besides, Captain Chigi is a good man, otherwise you wouldn't be moved. Then since you agree, Captain, of course I'm happy to serve Captain Chigi. However, if you want someone yourself, I will definitely not compete with you for it. That's why I said I would listen to you. Bah. Yukiashu waved his hand and said, go, call Hidi and the others. I don't like that kind of boy, I'm just teasing him. If you really want to get married, when Chigi comes, I will pack you up and send you to his bed. Okay, thank you Captain. Hangluan said with a happy face. Yukiashu waved his fist. I think you are asking for a fight. Hangluan then smiled and crawled out of the tent. A few days later, Luo Yang brought Luozi, Guanpeng, Yang Heo and others came to a camp. As soon as they entered the camp, they were invited to a tent. In the tent, Yukiashu sat in the main seat. In front of her was a table with a holographic tactical sand table on it. On the chairs on both sides, captains such as Chenling, Zheng Huan, and Hidong had already arrived. Many of these people were injured, especially Chenling, who had blood-stained bandages under his clothes, and the smell of disinfectant wafted from his body. It can be seen that these people's tasks are not easy. Luo Yan sat down in his seat, and Luozi and others sat in the back like the subordinates and confidants of other captains and listened. Seeing that everyone was there, Yukiashu stood up and looked around. Dear captains, you have worked hard these days, but your efforts are totally worth it. Now, Huangquan has been forced into a desperate situation by us. Currently, Yinrang and his remaining generals are hiding in this city. Yukiashu pointed to a city on the holographic tactical sand table. They blew up the viaduct and blocked some of the roads in and out, making the hiding place easy to defend and difficult to attack. Moreover, they still have several mechs in their hands, although their morale is low due to repeated failures. But if we just attack with force, we may force them to jump off the wall and fight to the death. Even if we can eventually destroy them, we will suffer heavy losses. So, I want to hear your opinions. Team 2 Captain Zheng Huan showed his white teeth and said, the desperate army will win, because they have lost everything, and will definitely fight to the death. If they are forced into a corner, why don't we organize an elite force, sneak into the city, and assassinate Yinrang? Without a leader, this desperate army will become a mess. By then, we can use coercion, inducement, division, and bribery, and take multiple approaches. Are you afraid that we can't deal with them? Team 5 Captain Yidong was smoking and shook his head when he heard this. Old Zheng, your method is good, but there is a problem. It is rumored that Yinrang is at the Tangxuan realm. It is not easy to assassinate a Tangxuan realm expert. Zheng Huan scratched his short hair. That's true. To assassinate a Tangxuan realm expert, at least, there must be a strong person at the same Tangxuan realm. Captain Yu doesn't seem to have reached the Tangxuan realm either. Yukiashu smiled and did not answer. Pa. A slap was slapped on the table. Huang Yu, who had a gold tooth, stood up and said, "This is easy. Didn't the Jiuying tribe also participate in the war? Then let Minister Lin take action. Minister Lin is the Tangxuan realm master." Captain Yu, don't you think so? Without waiting for Yukiashu to respond, Chenling sneered when he heard it. You are afraid that the Jiuying tribe will not get enough credit, right? Huang Yu's face suddenly turned cold. Chen, why are you barking like a dog? How can you fight against the Tangxuan realm? Then go ahead. But in my opinion, if you go up and give yourself a head, I guess people will not be willing to look at you straight. Chenling laughed. That's right. After all, I'm just a small character. It's normal for people to look down on me, but I think I'm better than some people. At least I won't be shameless enough to lick an outsider. Huang Yu jumped up with a whoosh, took out a pistol, and pointed it at Chenling. You have the guts to say it again. Put down the gun. Luo Yan, who had not spoken, said calmly, it's okay to talk. Do it. Don't make yourself uncomfortable. Huang Yu was once chopped by Luo Yan. Although he was gnashing with hatred, he also had some shadows. Looking at Luo Yan wearing a mask, Huang Yu hesitated and finally put down the gun. Yukiashu looked at Chenling and said, Captain Chen, you shouldn't say that. It's not good to hurt the relationship. Chenling glanced at Luo Yan, then nodded. I said the wrong thing. Captain Huang, I'm injured and in a bad mood. Don't be offended. Huang Yu snorted, but didn't continue to get angry. Chapter 703 A brilliant plan. After each of them was given 50 lashes, Yukiashu glanced at Luo Yan. Seeing that he didn't seem to be planning to speak, the woman said, I do have an immature idea. Tell me and help me think about it, captains. Yukiashu said after some politeness. I plan to broadcast to the position where Huangquan is located and tell the people over there that we just want them to leave the northern border. If Yinrang is willing to agree to evacuate and guarantee that Huangquan will not jump into the northern land again, we are willing to make way for them to leave. If Yinrang does not agree and Huangquan's people want to leave, as long as they are willing to lay down their weapons, we are also willing to let them leave and provide them with vehicles and food. Hidong exhaled a puff of smoke. As long as Yinrang is not a fool, he will not agree to such a request. Yukiashu smiled and nodded. That's right. My idea is that, if Yinrang agrees and really evacuates, then we will wait until they reach the plain wilderness before taking action. By then, there will be no defenses to rely on, and we can use our superior firepower to wipe them out in one fell swoop. If Yinrang does not agree, it doesn't matter. We will surround their positions, bombard them regularly every day, and then let the prisoners shout to instigate Huangquan soldiers. Then give them a certain amount of food and medicine to undermine their will and ideas to fight to the death. As time goes on, Huangquan will have other ideas that go against Yinrang's will. In addition, I have obtained the structural diagram of the city. While besieging them, I will let the engineering troops open up the city's underground network. When Huangquan loses its fighting spirit, we will send people to enter the enemy's position through the underground network and catch them off guard. At that time, we will cooperate with the inside and outside, attack from the ground, and destroy Huangquan in one fell swoop. As he spoke, under the holographic sand table, located below the city, a complex underground network appeared. It is composed of a sewer network and a subway network. A yellow route line marks the route of action of the Black Witches and the final attack location. Let everyone see it clearly. Next, after everyone discussed the details, the meeting was declared over. Yukiashu found a reason to keep Luo Yan. When there were only two of them left in the tent, Yukiashu said with a smile, Captain Chigi, what do you think of this plan? Luo Yan nodded. It's very comprehensive. The only problem is that, since Huang Yu was bribed by Lin Yuanfang, then Lin Yuanfang must know about this plan. If Lin Yuanfang really colluded with Huangquan, then those who sneaked into the Huangquan position would be going to die. Yukioshu said nonchalantly. There will always be deaths in war. Moreover, those who sneaked into the Huangquan position will be prisoners from previous battles. Luo Yan's eyes moved slightly. This was not what Yukioshu said at the meeting just now. The woman had just made it clear that the task of sneaking into the Huangquan position would be the responsibility of her team 1. Suddenly, Luo Yan understood Yukioshu's plan. Are you testing Lin Yuanfang? Yukioshu leaned back in her chair. Isn't it obvious? If the captives are attacked with precision, it will prove that Lin Yuanfang is indeed in collusion with Huangquan. If not, we can proceed as planned. No matter which result, it's not bad for us. Luo Yan nodded and thought to himself that Yukioshu was not an easy woman to deal with. She made a simple arrangement, but it was very knowledgeable. If Lin Yuanfang was really in collusion with Huangquan, he might be exposed this time. There was a short silence. Then Yukioshu spoke first. Last time I asked you what you wanted after you finished this thing. Have you thought about it? She leaned one hand on the armrest of the chair, supporting her chin, with a lazy look and ambiguous eyes. Sister will agree to whatever you want, as long as sister can give it. Luo Yan stood up and said simply, let's talk about it after this matter is done. Then she left the tent. Yukioshu smiled. It seems that the last time I was so strong was just an act. You little brat, you dare to cheat me. Wait and see how I will deal with you. At this time, Han Luan came in and said with a serious face, Captain, Minister Lin and his people are here. Walking in the camp, Luo Yan's heart moved, and he looked up and saw several off-road vehicles passing by in the distance. Behind the off-road vehicle was a black car. The car was modified, the chassis was raised, and the tires were thick. Even in the wilderness, it had good power. Inside the car, in the back window, Lin Yuanfang's face was reflected. Luo Yan took a look and retracted his sight and took Luo Yu and others back to the area marked out for them by Team 1. There was nothing to do for the time being, so Luo Yan practiced the blood transformation sutra, but because there was another Tangxuan realm strongman like Lin Yuanfang in the camp, Luo Yan did not use the blood key from the blood pupil to practice, so as not to let Lin Yuanfang feel anything. Such practice would naturally make slow progress, but Luo Yan did not care. With the war at hand, any improvement would be a good thing. The next day, in the distant city, artillery fire began to sound, followed by fireballs one by one, sparse at first, and then more densely blooming after a while. The tanks deployed around the Huangquan position began to bombard the enemy's position. This deterrent bombardment lasted for about 20 minutes. The edge of Huangquan's position was full of craters, and many people were killed and injured. Then, not long after, Yukioshu arranged several cars to come to the vicinity of the position, and the prisoners in the cars began to persuade them to surrender. Good brothers, listen to me, surrender. Captain Yukioshu is a good man. He treats the prisoners with good food and drink. If you get sick, there are military doctors to treat you. Where can you find such treatment? Yes, the Black Witch side has no intention of killing everyone. As long as you are willing to surrender, Captain Yukioshu guarantees that everyone can go home. Brothers, think about your relatives and your homes. Don't you want to go back? Go home, go home. Then Yukioshu's voice rang over the city again. I'm Yukioshu. I believe many people are familiar with me. Just like what your brother said just now, we Black Witches have no intention of killing all of you. Commander Yinrong, as long as you promise to leave the Northland with your men and Huangquan will no longer interfere in the Northland, you can leave. I, Yukioshu, always keep my word. Bombardment, persuasion to surrender, broadcasting. These tricks were performed almost every day in the next week. During this time, Luo Yan stepped up his training, and other people who were injured also hurried to recover. After a week, Luo Yan's cultivation improved a bit, and people like Chen Ling and Luo Zi who were injured also recovered well. Especially the latter. Basically his injuries have healed, and there is no problem in taking action again. Chapter 704 Persuading Surrender. After a week, rumors were spreading in Huangquan. Originally, the soldiers trapped here were still determined to fight to the bitter end. However, in the past few days, the Black Witch first bombarded them with deterrents, and then broadcast to persuade them to surrender, which confused the minds of the Huangquan soldiers. especially since yesterday, when they were almost out of food and had no medicine to treat their illness. The other side dropped packages containing food and medicine. This made the voices of surrender in Huangquan louder. Today, the artillery fire from the Black Witch side suddenly became fierce, unlike the symbolic firing a few days ago. Just now, the other side even fired a missile. Although it was intercepted, the impact of the explosion still caused heavy losses to Huangquan's position. Many soldiers were so hungry that their hands and feet were weak, and they did not have time to escape when the building collapsed and were buried alive in the ruins. After the bombing, the Black Witch side started broadcasting again. It was still Yukiishu's voice. It's been a week. Commander Yinrong, give me your answer, whether to fight or surrender. My patience is limited. 3 days at most. If you still don't surrender after 3 days, I will have no choice but to attack with all my strength. Soldiers of Huangquan, today is also our last day to deliver supplies to you. I promise that, if you are willing to surrender, we will make way for you, provide you with vehicles and food, and let you return home. That's all I can do. The broadcast echoed for a long time above the Huangquan position. The soldiers hiding in the bunkers looked at the building, where Yinran was in the rear. Dissatisfied voices began to flow in the bunkers. I don't want to die. This is different from what Commander Yinran promised at the beginning. Yes, when we retreated here, didn't the higher-ups say there would be reinforcement? Until now, I haven't even seen a ghost. I heard that Commander Yinran has quietly escaped. He hasn't left his room for several days. I want to leave here. Although it's a bit risky. Is there anyone who wants to go with me? Just like that, the day passed in a flash. At night, as the night fell, a few brave soldiers turned over the position and looked towards the Black Witch. When they were about to approach the opposite position, suddenly a bunch of bright lights shone on them. These soldiers immediately dropped their weapons, raised their hands and said, "We surrender, and hope that Captain Yukiishu will keep his promise and let us go home." A team of soldiers from the Black Witch quickly came over, checked their bodies, and took away the weapons they had thrown on the ground. This commotion was quite loud, and the soldiers on the Huangquan side stretched their necks to watch. Just as those soldiers were about to be taken away by the Black Witch, suddenly a rough gunshot rang out from deep in the Huangquan position. Then one of the surrendered soldiers had his head exploded, and screams were heard everywhere. The Black Witch team quickly took the surrendered soldiers and drove away. Seeing this scene, the soldiers who remained in the position were envious and angry. They envied those brave ones who escaped and were treated well. They were angry because the gunshots came from their own position, from the rear, and it was obvious that the people above did not like to see this scene. The night wind was howling. The night was already summer, so it was not cold. However, Wang Feng unconsciously hugged himself tightly with both hands, as if only in this way could he feel a little warmth. Like Luoyu, he was a backbone of the Zhang class, an important node connecting the superiors and subordinates in Huangquan. And there were only 4 important nodes like him, and the others had either betrayed or died in the previous battles. Wang Feng felt extremely bleak. He glanced at another comrade holding a sniper rifle not far away. Wu Mu, a backbone of Zhang like him. He was the one who fired the shot just now. You don't have to do that. If they want to leave, just let them go. Wang Feng said somewhat disheartenedly. On the first day, when the Black Witch persuaded us to surrender, we went to ask Commander Yinran for instructions. But he just told us to be patient. He hasn't said a word these days. Not only did he not say surrender, he also didn't prepare for a counterattack. I don't know what he's thinking. Even I don't know what to do, let alone the soldiers below. Wu Mu had long hair and a cold face. Hearing this, he said indifferently, the surrendered soldiers deserve to die. It has been like this since ancient times. As long as I don't fire this gun, most of them will run away tonight. At this time, a woman wrapped in a leather coat, outlining her beautiful curves, came over. If your heart is not here, what's the point of staying here? If a battle breaks out, it will drag us down. The woman had short hair that reached her shoulders. Her hair was bleached and dyed silver. She had a wheat-colored complexion and wore purple eyeshadow and nail polish, which made her look cool and sexy. Shanshan, please don't make trouble. Behind the woman, a rather burly man walked out. He seemed to be very heavy because of practicing some kind of martial arts. When he walked, the ground was slightly shaking. The woman named Chanshan turned her head and glanced at the sturdy man behind her and said with a smile, "Mosan, tell me, how did I make trouble? So far, the only 4 Zong left on the Huangquan position have arrived." The 4 of them gathered together, and Wang Feng hugged his shoulders and said, "Why don't we go see Commander Yinrang?" Mosan nodded and said in a muffled voice, "I agree." Wu Mu waved his hand, "You go. I agree with whatever you say. I'll stay here, in case someone else wants to run away." Shanshan threw a piece of gum into her mouth, chewing it while saying, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go." When the 3 were about to leave, someone hurried over. It was Yinrang's personal guard in front of the door. "3. The commander wants to see you." Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The next day, early in the morning, Luo Yan was invited to the command tent. Yukiashu was fully armed and looked like he was going to fight in person. In the command tent, the other captains were also present. Yukiashu said, "Everyone, the underground passage has been opened. My people will sneak into the Huangquan position tonight. I hope you are also prepared. Tonight, we will cooperate inside and outside to capture this position in one fell swoop and end this war." Hidong was smoking a cigarette. The cigarette butt flashed red when he took a puff. "I have waited for this day for too long. I'm dying of suffocation. Captain Yu, when the fight starts, I, Lao He, will take the lead." Zheng Huan laughed and said, "Lao He, it seems that you are really dying of suffocation, but they are not easy to deal with over there either. How about this, Captain Yu? Lao He and I will go together." Yushu nodded in agreement. "I think so too. Captain He and Captain Zheng, you are used to working together, so it is better to take care of each other when you are together. The rest of the people will follow you too, but Captain Shigi, your people will have to cover the rear. If something happens, and I'm not at the scene, you will need to cover the bottom and deal with it." Chapter 705 Baptism of Violence. Cover the rear and back up. Hidong and others all looked at Luo Yan. Yukiashu's words were tantamount to telling everyone that, if she was not there, Luo Yan would be the second person in charge. Letting Luo Yan come to cover the rear and back up also showed Yukiashu's trust in him. If before the war, there were still people who questioned the strength of Team 7, then now, even Huang Yu, who was at odds with Luo Yan, did not dare to jump out and question whether Team 7 had this ability. Capture Chunai base and kill Li Guang and his remnants. 2 consecutive dazzling achievements left no doubt about Yukiashu's judgment. This matter was settled. In the blink of an eye, it was night. Today, the Black Witch's bombardment was more intense, showing the Black Witch's firm determination. Moreover, the Black Witch did not drop any supplies today, which made Huangquan's side feel heavy. During this day, Huangquan's soldiers surrendered one after another. The Black Witch accepted everyone who came and hit them all with his car. From time to time, Huangquan shot and killed defectors, but it was not known whether it was because too many people surrendered or the shooters did not want to kill people. Anyway, not many people died. Seeing that the sun was setting again, there was only one day left tomorrow. In the Huangquan position, the remaining soldiers were not thinking about how to fight the enemy desperately, but planning how to cross the defense line to surrender at night or tomorrow morning. In such an atmosphere, the spirit inside Huangquan was relaxed, and no one noticed that the sewer manhole covers on some streets in the center of the position were shaking and lifted up, and then figures climbed out of these shafts. They were originally prisoners of Team 1, and after coercion and inducement, they all surrendered to the Black Witch. As soon as these people came out of the sewer, they immediately dispersed according to the plan. They touched the hiding points of Huangquan and threw grenades and other explosives into them. Some people even carried rocket launchers and fired at the hiding points of Huangquan. In a blink of an eye, rumbling explosions sounded in the Huangquan position, and groups of orange-red fireballs lit up in the position, lighting up the dim night sky. Hidong, who had been sharpening his sword for a long time, saw the fire in the distance in the cab of the mecha, and immediately shouted, "Lao Zheng, let's go." In an instant, groups of lights lit up in the darkness. Those were the energy nodes in the eyes, chest and other parts of the mecha. As they lit up, they immediately outlined the outlines of the mechs. These steel giants changed from kneeling to standing upright, and then began to stride forward. Between the mechs, off-road vehicles equipped with guns rushed out first. The soldiers on the vehicles raised their rifles, pointed them at the enemy line, and pulled the trigger. Bang bang bang. Huge gunshots rang above the heads of the Black Witch warriors, but it was the mechs of Hidong's captains who were also firing. The rifles used to deal with the Behemoths were as powerful as naval guns. One bullet could penetrate the building. Immediately, fierce firepower covered Huan Quan's defense line, like a rainstorm washing the earth, giving the enemy a violent and fierce baptism. How could this happen? Didn't they say there is still one day left tomorrow? Why are they attacking? Huan Quan's position was in chaos. Because of the attitude shown by the Black Witch before, the Huan Quan soldiers believed that the other side would not come to their door so soon. As a result, there was still one day left before the ultimatum, and the enemy had already killed at the door. The fighting spirit of the Huan Quan soldiers had been disintegrated and wiped out in these days. When they were suddenly attacked, they were all stunned and had no idea how to deal with it. All of a sudden, Huan Quan was defeated. Behind the front line, people were in the cab of massacre. Luo Yang cast his eyes on the Huan Quan position and saw the flames there. He narrowed his eyes slightly. Isn't Lin Yuanfang a traitor? According to Yukioshu's plan, the team that infiltrated Huan Quan's position was a team of prisoners. This was a live chess move to test Lin Yuanfang. If Huan Quan had received the news early, knew where the captive team would sneak into the city, and then carried out precise killing, it is basically certain that Lin Yuanfang and Yunrang are in collusion. On the contrary, if Huan Quan did not know about this, then this group of captives could create chaos and cooperate with the current attacking personnel. Judging from the current situation, Huan Quan did not prepare in advance. So Luo Yan thought, could it be that they had wrongly blamed Lin Yuanfang? At this moment, outside the panoramic window, several buildings in Huan Quan's position suddenly shattered, and 3 tall figures walked out of it. They were the only remaining mechs on Huan Quan's side. When these mechs appeared, the spirits of Huan Quan's soldiers were all lifted. But then, what those mechs did was beyond everyone's expectations. These 3 mechs did not go to the front line to resist the mechs of Hidong and others in the first place, but turned around and ran. The 3 mechs chose to evacuate in the opposite direction of the front line, and between these 3 mechs, a convoy roared out of the city. In an armored command vehicle in the convoy, a figure sat in a precarious position. The man's hair was slightly white, and he wore a mask on his face, revealing only his 2 eyes. It was obvious that the 3 mechs from Huan Quan escorted the convoy away. The next moment, all the captains from the Black Witch side heard Yukioshu's voice. Captain Shigi, stop that convoy immediately. Yunrong should be in that convoy. Luo Yan responded immediately, got it. In fact, when he saw the 3 mechs turn around and evacuate, Luo Yan had already caught up with the Jingwei driven by Yang Tao and 2 other old mechs. Outside the panoramic window, the Jingwei was on his right, and the other 2 mechs were behind him. Under Luo Yan's control, the butcher took big steps and ran on the earth. With heavy steps, every step he took, the earth would inevitably shake and crack, and the surrounding ground would be squeezed and arched. The rocks, carcasses, and trees in the wilderness were shaken to the ground. The steel body tore through the air, bringing up a frenzy of airflow, bypassing the Huan Quan position under the moonlight, and constantly closing the distance with the opponent. Attack! Luo Yan said in a deep voice. Behind him, a mecha had already placed a dark red dragon-headed cannon on its shoulder, and then aimed at the convoy in the distance. The mecha used a rocket launcher, and it burst into a grey-white airwave. A flash of fire pushed the dark red explosive bomb to quickly attack the target. Just as it was about to fall into the convoy, a mecha suddenly inserted between the cannonball and the convoy. The mecha raised its large shield, slid across the ground in a half-kneeling posture, smashed an overpass, and protected the convoy under it. Boom. A bright white flame burst out. The mecha and the large shield shook endlessly, and the road surface was like being attacked by a storm. The hurricane washed around, causing the car wreckage on the street to fly up and constantly hit various buildings or street lights. Chapter 706, Killing. In the camp, Yukioshu stood in front of the screens, taking in the overall situation. At this time, several moving boxes appeared on one of the screens, attracting Yukioshu's attention. She looked at the digital code in the lower left corner of the screen and knew that it was one of the drones located over the Huanquan position. Obviously, this drone captured several figures. Yukiyashu took out a remote control, enlarged the screen, and saw the figures clearly. An ordinary middle-aged man with no special features, a young man with long hair and a cold face holding a sniper rifle, a silver-haired woman wearing a tight leather jacket, and finally a tall and burly man like a small mountain. Yukiyashu's pupils shrank slightly. Yinrang's confidence? She naturally knew who these four people were: the ordinary middle-aged man Wang Feng, the long-haired cold-faced man Wu Mu, the silver-haired leather-clad woman Shan Shan, and the big man Mosan. They are Yinrang's confidants and the backbone of the Zan class. Yukiyashu thought that these people were in the mecha just now, but she didn't expect that they would appear in the camera. Then, another figure walked out of the building. He was slender and wore a mask with a venomous snake pattern. Under the protection of Wang Feng and other forecasters, he got into a car. Afterwards, Wang Feng and Shan Shan got into the car one after the other. Wu Mu jumped into an off-road vehicle and started the car. After the mountain took off the back seat and sat in the car, the two cars started and left. In an instant, Yukiyashu grasped the opponent's plan. Yinrang's gecko cut off its tail, abandoned the large army, and even sacrificed several mechs. He used these things to attract his own attention, and he took a few cadres and rode lightly to escape from here. If it weren't for tonight's action, Yukiyashu would have sent a captured troop to infiltrate the enemy camp in order to test Lin Yuanfang. If she led the team herself, she would definitely let Yinrang, the venomous snake, run away. But now it's another matter. Han Luan, you stay. The rest of you follow me. Yukiyashu strode out of the tent. Yinrang must die. After doing so much, if Yinrang escapes, then all efforts will be in vain. A moment later, a convoy left the camp and drove into the night. Asterisk 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 on the other side of the battlefield. The mecha team led by Luo Yan has already fought with Huanquan's 3 mechs. Among Huanquan's 3 mechs, one is a high-level machine, and the other 2 are intermediate machines. On Luo Yan's side, the Butcher is a high-level machine, the Jingwei is only a primary machine, and the latter 2 are old-fashioned machines. In this way, leaving aside the factors of control and the combat power of the mecha master himself, just comparing the performance of the machines, Luo Yan's side is obviously at a disadvantage. But now, Luo Yan alone has held up the 2 machines on the opposite side. As a result, the 3 machines including the Jingwei can fight against a middle-level machine. The Butcher raised his sword and slashed, emitting invisible sword energy, forcing a machine back. Then he turned around and withstood the attack of Huanquan's black advanced machine. Luo Yan fought 1 against 2 and was not at a disadvantage. At this time, a private conversation appeared in his communication channel. Yukiyashu's voice soon sounded, "Don't fight to the end. We have all been fooled by Yinrang. I just found out that Yinrang and his confidant ran from another direction. I will send you the coordinates now. Come and help." The holographic screen on the command console soon received a coordinate. Luo Yan substituted the coordinates into the current map, and a light spot appeared on the map, and this light spot was moving. Luo Yan immediately said in the team channel, "We have been deceived. Yinrang is not in the front convoy. Retreat." The Butcher was fully powered, and the alloy longsword slashed continuously, and a series of sword energy crossed the sky, forcing the 2 mechas of Huanquan to retreat. Luo Yan was about to withdraw, but at this time, a red intermediate machine on the opposite side suddenly took out a weapon box. The weapon alloy plate flipped over, and a rapid-fire cannon turned out. Boom boom boom. The dull drum-like sound of the cannon rang out, and the rapid-fire cannon roared. In the dark night, powerful bullets rubbed the air, pulling out streaks of fire, and fiercely and fatally bombarded the Butcher. Luo Yan frowned slightly. Mechas can have things like anti-membranes. Even if it is a god general level body, if it is not defended, and is hit by the shells of the rapid-fire cannon, it will not be easy. Not to mention the advanced body of the Butcher. Even if this mecha has heavy armor and high defense, compared with other bodies, it is just the difference between taking more and less shots. He wanted to leave the battlefield, but now, Luo Yan had to deal with it carefully, so as not to capsize in the gutter. The clumsy figure of the Butcher flashed, and then was hit by the shells of the rapid-fire cannon. After being hit, the figure of the butcher disappeared like a bubble. The pilot in the red mech was stunned for a moment. He was searching for his opponent when he heard his companion yelling in the channel, "He's behind you." The red mech was about to turn around, but it was too late. With the help of Daozu and Crossing Yi, Luo Yan came behind the enemy aircraft, and the alloy longsword outlined a crimson crescent, splitting the body in front of him in two. Electric sparks sprayed in the body, and then the engine and energy furnace exploded at the same time. A ball of orange fire rose from the mech, and then expanded into a huge fireball. Luo Yan said inwardly, "What a pity." Originally, he was entangled with the two enemy aircraft, trying to imitate the previous battle against Boang, trying to leave the lightest injuries on the enemy aircraft, to end the battle and recover Huang Quan's mech. But now, in a hurry to leave, Luo Yan had to kill. Once he got into the opponent's blind spot, he used Yan Po Yun to cut the body with one blow. At this time, another Huang Quan mech rushed over. This mecha is painted black, and uses two narrow swords. At this moment, the two swords are emitting a hazy red light, and are about to cross, and chop at the butcher. But the butcher is faster than his opponent. The alloy longsword almost disappeared in the air. A crimson sword light crossed the neck of the enemy mecha. Combat skills, chasing the wind, and chasing the shadow. The mecha, which was still charging, suddenly flew up, fell to the back, and smashed into a building. The butcher stretched out his hand, and pressed on the chest of the rushing mecha to stop it. Just like that, the mecha still held the two swords, but the light on the swords had faded, and the mecha just stood there under the cold moonlight, motionless. "This one is okay, it can be repaired and used again." Luo Yan's eyes flashed with a trace of relief, and then he rushed to the coordinates given by Yukiashu. But after a few steps, Luo Yan suddenly saw that the light spot on the screen on the command desk disappeared. His heart skipped a beat, and he sped up. However, when the mecha arrived at the location where the light spot last disappeared, Luo Yan looked around. In the vast wilderness, where were Yukiashu and Yinrang? Chapter 707 Under the Dangerous Wall. It was dawn. A black mech was being transported to the camp by a transporter. The mech was separated from its head and body, but fortunately the cross-section was extremely smooth, so it would be much easier to repair. As a high-level mech, it was worth repairing. The battle was over. In the war last night, Huang Quan had no morale at all. When Captains Zheng Huan and He Dang drove their mechs and led their men into the position, Huang Quan's soldiers immediately surrendered. The Black Witches did not kill them all. As long as they were willing to lay down their weapons, they would not kill them. After all, captives also have many uses, such as using them to build surface bases, which can save a large part of human resources. So when Luo Yan drove the butcher back to the camp, he saw that many captives were being held together. After getting off the mech, Luo Yan went straight to the command tent. When he entered the tent, he saw Yukiashu's confidant, a woman in red makup, walking back and forth on the screen. Luo Yan coughed dryly, and Han Luan realized that he was here, which showed that the woman's mind was not here at all. "Has Captain Yu returned?" Last night, Luo Yan rushed to the coordinates given by Yukiashu. Because he lost the light spot, he didn't know where Yukiashu would go next, so Luo Yan could only search blindly nearby. With the power of the mecha, the search range is very wide, but Luo Yan still didn't find Yukiashu. After a busy night, the various values of the mecha had dropped significantly, so Luo Yan had to return to the camp first. At this moment, hearing Luo Yan's words, Hong Luan shook her head and said, "The captain hasn't returned yet. Besides, I can't contact her." Luo Yan frowned slightly. "Is there no way to locate her?" Hong Luan shook her head again. "I can't locate her." For a moment, Luo Yan was silent. There were footsteps outside one after another, and it was the captain such as He Dang and Zheng Huan who came back. "Oh, Captain Chigi is pretty fast this time. Hurry up to ask for credit from Captain Yu." As soon as he entered the door, Huang Yu started to talk bad. But now, Luo Yan was in no mood to pay attention to him. It takes two to clap, and Huang Yu was worried that he might anger the red ghost and then cut him with a knife. After saying this, he did not continue. He Dang saw that the atmosphere in the command tent was not right, and he did not see Yukiashu, so he looked at Hong Luan and said, "Miss Hong Luan, Where is your captain? Han Luan looked at Luo Yan. Luo Yan knew that she was asking for his opinion, so he nodded slightly. Han Luan then said, last night, when everyone attacked the position, we found that Yin Rang and his confidants left from another direction. Zheng Huan exclaimed, so, we were all fooled by Yin Rang last night. Han Luan nodded, yes, Yin Rang abandoned his soldiers and even the mecha, and took Wang Feng, the Demon King, and several other confidants, trying to get away in the chaos. After our captain found out, he immediately rushed over with people, but I lost contact with her since last night, and she has not returned until now. Before the captains had time to ask questions, a majestic voice sounded outside the tent. Nonsense. The captains looked back and saw Lin Yuanfang coming in. I heard everything outside. How could Captain Yu be so careless? That Yin Rang is not an ordinary person, a Tangxuan realm expert, and he has several high-level cadres under his command. How could Captain Yu act alone? Han Luan looked at Luo Yan. Luo Yan coughed dryly. Captain Yu notified me at the time, but when I drove the mecha over, I didn't find anything now. Plus I couldn't contact Captain Yu, so I could only search blindly nearby, but unfortunately, I didn't find anything. He had just finished speaking when Huang Yu sneered. You are the only one at the scene. You can say whatever you want. Luo Yan looked at him. What do you mean? Huang Yu quietly moved a few steps to Lin Yuanfang. What I mean is that maybe you, Captain Shigi, are in the same group with Yin Rang. You tricked Captain Yu over and jointly harmed Captain Yu. Don't say I'm targeting you. Who told you to wear a mask all day? I heard that Yin Rang also likes to wear a mask. It's really hard for people not to connect you two together. Maybe you are Yin Rang himself. This can also explain why Huang Quan accurately grasped a location at the previous captain's meeting. The atmosphere in the command tent suddenly became solemn. Although captains such as Yidang and Zheng Heng did not say anything, their eyes flickered, and they were obviously suspicious. Luo Yan thought, this is the difference between an organization and a corps. When the finale is not there, there will be all kinds of suspicion in the organization, and there are even people like Huang Yu who want to take this opportunity to overthrow him. In the past, in the Zuanming department, with the support of Yukiashu, Huang Yu would not dare to jump out and say such things, even if he had 10 guts. But now that Yukiashu is not here, and Lin Yuanfang is by his side, Huang Yu's courage has grown immediately. Moreover, he linked Luo Yan and Yin Rang together. This made other captains dare not speak for Luo Yan easily, for fear that they would be implicated. What's more, they may not be unhappy with the current situation. Since Luo Yan joined the Black Witch as a Red Ghost, the strength of Team 7 has increased rapidly, and the speed of this improvement is eye-catching. At the same time, it also made captains such as Yidang feel threatened. If they take this opportunity to disintegrate the power of Team 7, it will be more beneficial than harmful to them. Therefore, they chose to remain silent. At this time, Lin Yuanfang broke the silence. Not long ago, when our Jufang unit was hunting down a cadre from Huangquan, we happened to run into Captain Chigi. So my people invited Captain Chigi to come and have a chat with me. Although Captain Chigi and I have only met once, I know that Captain Chigi is definitely not a fool. If he really has colluded with Yin Rang, or even Yin Rang himself, then after harming Captain Yu, there is absolutely no reason for him to return to the camp alone, thus putting himself in danger. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. A smart man like Captain Chigi would never do such a stupid thing. I believe that Captain Yu's matter has nothing to do with him. Luo Yan was slightly distracted and almost thought he had heard it wrong. Lin Yuanfang would actually defend him. Could it be that he was selling favors and wanted to take the opportunity to win him over? At this moment, there was a commotion outside. Then a female member of Team 1 ran in and looked at Han Luan. Hidi and the others are back. Really? Han Luan was overjoyed. What about the captain? The captain is not back. And Hidi and the others are all injured. Han Luan exclaimed. What? Take me there quickly. A moment later, not only did Han Luan rush to a field hospital operating vehicle, but even Lin Yuanfang, Luo Yan and others rushed there. When they arrived, Hidi and Bailu were undergoing surgery. Only King Neo, who was less seriously injured, could move. King Neo was thin and looked weak, and now that she was injured, she looked even more pitiful. Seeing Hangluan, the melon-faced girl held up a guandao that was taller than her and said, "Sister Hangluan, the captain has been caught. P.S. P.S. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall." Talks about the principles and methods of being a human being. A gentleman should stay away from dangerous places. It includes two aspects. One is to take precautions before they happen, to be aware of potential dangers in advance, and to take preventive measures. The other is to leave in time once you find yourself in a dangerous situation. The full sentence is, prevent disasters in advance so as not to hurt feelings later. Know and act prudently. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall, so how can he take it lightly? Chapter 708 Lin Yuanfang's position. Yukiashu was captured. This news, like a heavy bomb, blew everyone's mind blank. Huang Yu was dumbfounded. That woman. No, Captain Yu was actually captured? Is it possible? How could Captain Yu? Lin Yuanfang glared at him, asking this foul-mouthed guy to shut his mouth, and then said, "Little girl, tell me in detail what happened." King Miao sorted out the clues and then said, "Last night, the captain discovered Yunrang's whereabouts. It happened suddenly, and she immediately led us to attack." King Miao raised his head and glanced at Luo Yan. In order to ensure the smooth operation, she also notified Captain Shigi and asked him to support us. Luo Yan nodded. King Miao continued, "Originally everything was going smoothly. We didn't dare to chase too fast for fear of being discovered by the other party. We didn't even turn on the car lights. We also used a drone to watch them from high altitude. After chasing for 100 kilometers, a sniper from Yinrang's side shot down our drone. At the same time, they turned around and hunted us down. The captain judged that Yinrang had discovered that we were following him a long time ago. They waited until now to take action to keep us away from the camp. We quickly turned around and wanted to rush back to the camp, but the other party's vehicle had much more power than ours. Also, they used communication jammers, making it impossible for us to call for help. In this case, we can only hide in a surface town, hoping to use the terrain here to get rid of our opponents. Unfortunately, we were eventually blocked by Yinrong, and the captain entangled them, giving us a chance to escape. After we escaped from the town, Huangquan's side broadcast. They claimed that the captain had fallen into Huangquan's hands. However, they can release the captain, but there is a requirement. Hearing this, everyone, including Luo Yan, saw a general outline of last night's events. Lin Yuanfang asked, "What's the request?" King Miao's eyes moved to Luo Yan. They asked Captain Shigi to go to the designated location alone, not to drive a mecha, not to bring anyone, and to attend the appointment alone. In addition, Captain Shigi needs to bring the base diary he got from Li Guang. Huangquan wants that diary. At that time, the diary will be exchanged for the captain. As soon as King Neo finished speaking, Lin Yuanfang said firmly, "You can't go." He looked at Luo Yan and said, "You can't go. This is clearly a trap. If you go, I'm afraid you won't even come back." Luo Yan saw that his eyes were firm and didn't seem to be acting, and he couldn't help but feel a little confused. Lin Yuanfang defended him once before, and now he has this attitude again. It's as if he is his confidant. Lin Yuanfang is in the Nengxuan realm, and Luo Yan has never dared to use a peeping silver eyes on him casually. He was worried that he would alert Lin Yuanfang, but now that something like this has happened, he feels it is necessary to find out Lin Yuanfang's position. At that moment, a not so obvious silver light flashed in his pupils. He read Lin Yuanfang's information. Lin Yuanfang, 41 years old, head of the Black Witch Jiuying Department, Realm, Great Perfection of Tongzuan, Shenzang, Taotai's Fang, Mystical System, activated once every minute. The attacked part is missing. It will return after killing Lin Yuanfang. If killed, it will become Taotai's food. Skills. Compared with the past, the amount of information obtained by the Peeping Dao True Eyes is much more now, and even the Shenzang has specific information. However, Luo Yan is more concerned about his voice. Read. This is obviously a trap. Now that Yukiashu has been captured, we can't let another red ghost get involved. The red ghost's ability is quite outstanding. If we can win him over to the Jiuying department, it will be a great help to me. Therefore, we must never let him take risks. Luo Yan didn't dare to dig out too much information, for fear that Lin Yuanfang would notice it. Besides, these few voices were enough for him to understand Lin Yuanfang's position. Sure enough, this Minister Jiufang wanted to win him over. Close the god's treasure. Luo Yan thought for a moment, looked at King Neo and said, what is the location designated by Huang Quan? Hearing this, everyone was surprised. Among the Black Witches, due to the relationship of interests, when encountering such a situation, it is normal to stand by and watch. Even Hongluan and King Neo did not hold much hope for Luo Yan. Not to mention the captains Huang Yu and Hidang. In their eyes, Kaiji Ui is a shrewd and cautious person. He will definitely not take risks for such a thing. What's more, Minister Lin Yuanfang has already insisted that it is a trap. Even if Kaiji Ui said he didn't want to go at this time, no one can blame him. But now, Kaiji Ui actually has the intention to keep the appointment, which is really shocking. Lin Yuanfang frowned and said, Red Ghost, don't act on impulse. There are many ways to rescue Captain Yu. I will go there myself, and I should be able to rescue Captain Yu. You don't need to take any risks at all. Luo Yan said calmly. How confident is Minister Lin? Huang Yu was furious. Red Ghost, what do you mean? Are you questioning Minister Lin? Minister Lin kindly advised you not to take risks, and you refused to listen, but now you are doubting Minister Lin's ability. You are really asking for trouble. Lin Yuanfang raised his hand, but he did not seem angry. He said seriously, Yinrang is also in the Tangxuan realm, and there are 4 cadres in the advanced realm. Captain Yu is in their hands again. Under such circumstances, I dare not say that I can succeed 100%. If I want to rescue Captain Yu, 50%. At least 50% sure. Luo Yan said softly, half and half. This is still too risky. Then I'll go. Of course, I know Huang Quan won't let him go so easily. But if I show up, I should be able to attract the other party's attention. Yinrang wants the base diary of Chunyu base. I have read that diary. Although I can't see anything, Yinrang wants it, which means it is of great value to Huang Quan. I will use this diary to attract Yinrang's attention and Huang Quan's attention. If Minister Lin takes action at this time, the chance of success should be 20% to 30% higher. Lin Yuanfang thought for a while and said, if you can attract Yinrang's attention, I'm sure that I will not be approached by Huang Quan's people. But think about it, even if I can rescue Captain Yu, by then, you will be surrounded, and may not be able to escape. Luo Yan said lightly, it doesn't matter. When it comes to escape, I'm still somewhat confident. Lin Yuanfang nodded and said, okay, let's do it. But I'm curious, Chigi, why are you doing this? You don't look like someone who would take risks for others. Luo Yan said frankly, I owe Captain Yu several favors. Is this reason enough? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 709 Trading Night. Get the location designated by Huang Quan. Confirm the departure time with Lin Yuanfang. Luo Yan returned to his tent and began to practice, intending to set off in the best condition. It was already afternoon when he finished practicing. Luo Yan felt full of energy and strength, and his body and mind were in the best condition. At this time, Luo Yu came. As soon as he came in, he said, are you crazy? I heard that you are going to save Yushu. Is it worth it for a woman? Luo Yan said calmly, I will save her, regardless of gender. I would go, if she was a man. Luo Yu snorted and said, it's just a favor. You don't have to risk your life, brother. Luo Yan glanced at him and said, who told you that I want to risk my life? If things are impossible, Luo Yan will naturally not force it. He has the dragon transformation posture and the Cheyenne Lang pill on him. Even if facing a Tangxuan realm strongman, Luo Yan is sure to escape. It is true that he wants to repay Yushu's favor, but he has not thought about risking his life for Yushu. Of course, Luo Yu didn't know how many cards Luo Yan had. He now thought Luo Yan was crazy. He couldn't understand Luo Yan's behavior at all. Luo now suspected that he had boarded the wrong ship. It's your business if you want to die, but before you go to seek death, can you give me the antidote? I'm innocent, brother. Luo raised 2 fingers. If you want the antidote, either beat me or wait for me to come back. Luo was out of breath, pointing at Luo for a long time without saying a word, and finally left angrily. As soon as he left the tent, he ran into Hangluan and King Nero. If it were normal, seeing these 2 girls with their own characteristics, Luo would have to appreciate them carefully. Especially Hangluan. Her fruit is ripe, and it is a good season for picking. But now Luo is not in the mood at all, and ran away angrily. Hangluan and King Neo looked at Luo strangely, and then entered the tent. Good afternoon, Captain Chigi. Luo raised his head. What are you doing here? Hangluan said sincerely, we are here to thank Captain Chigi. Captain Chigi is willing to take risks for Our Lady. We will always remember this kindness. Luo nodded, but did not take it to heart. King Mio took out a briefcase and put it on the table. There are some things in it. Captain Chigi should be able to use them. She opened the box and found a lot of things inside. There were grenades and first aid medicines, which were placed in the briefcase in different categories. Luo took a look and said, that's thoughtful. Then we won't bother Captain Chigi anymore. Hangluan knew Luo's temper and didn't like to drag things out. So after putting down the things, she pulled King Neo away. Luo stood up and put on a combat uniform with many pockets, then put the things that Hangluan brought into different pockets and memorized their positions. Then he took out a cloak and put it on, and then took the double swords Xuan Lang and Jiuying and was ready to set off. Before leaving, he found Yang Tao wandering outside, as if hesitating whether to come in. Luo raised his lips slightly and said, come in. A soft call came from outside, and then Yang Tao poked her head out of the door, looked around, and then walked in, rubbing the corner of her clothes. Teacher. Luo looked at her and said, do you have something to ask me? Yang Tao shook her head and nodded. Finally, she couldn't help but say, teacher, I heard everything. Mr. Yang said you were going to save Miss Yu. As a student, I shouldn't have said anything. But teacher, that's so dangerous. Mr. Yang said that the other party not only has a Tangxuan realm expert, but also 4 advanced realm practitioners. You go alone. I'm worried and scared. Yang Tao pursed her lips, her eyes watery. Yang Tao has only you as a relative. What if you? Do you have so little confidence in me? Luo chuckled. Don't worry, I will come back. Practice the secret method I taught you well. I will check it when you come back. If it is found that you are not practicing well, you should be prepared to be punished. Yang Tao looked at Luo in a daze, and then said, teacher, you are not lying, are you? You promised to come back? Luo nodded. Yang Tao smiled. I believe you, teacher. Then the little girl left. Luo smiled and looked at the time. It was time to set off. The trading place designated by Huangquan was the town where Yukiashu and others had hidden before. It was already night when Luo arrived. He drove down a road and passed a road sign that read Beading welcomes you. As soon as he entered the town, Luo felt like he was being watched. He felt that there were eyes on him, and not just one, but several eyes, looking at him from different directions. Falling on him, the uninvited guest. Luo didn't care and drove the motorcycle slowly into the town at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Although the town was deserted and overgrown with weeds, it looked desolate and gloomy. But from the bars with dusty signs in the town, the hotels with open doors, the telephone poles with small advertisements posted, and the many chimneys in the distance, this town should have been very lively in the past. Those chimneys were obviously buildings belonging to some factories. Factories have jobs, and jobs can keep people. Unfortunately, now it is like a rotting corpse, not yet completely rotten, but almost. Not long after Luo entered the town, a figure walked out from the scattered black low buildings in front. Under the headlights, Luo saw that it was a middle-aged man with ordinary looks. His eyes were dull, his hair was not combed, and his chin was covered with blue stubble. With a cigarette in his mouth, he asked slowly, Red Devil? Luo nodded. The middle-aged man said, my name is Xing Feng. You should know who I am. Did you bring the things? Luo Yan raised his hand in his cloak, holding Li Guang's base diary. Wang Feng said again, read the contents inside. Any page will do. Luo Yan glanced at him, then flipped it open casually. On January 23rd, the blood essence of the Shibi corpse arrived, and Professor Jiuying Han began to work on his Night Wandering God drug research and development work. Okay. Wang Feng interrupted, it is indeed the base diary, come with me. He pulled up a 28-bar bicycle leaning against the wall, which looked like an old carder in the town. Luo Yan followed behind on a motorcycle, and after a while, he came to a place that looked like an office building. This is indeed an office building. Outside the courtyard, where the building is located, there is a sign hanging at the entrance. Only half of the sign is left, with the words government building on it. It looks like it should be the government office building of this town. Wang Feng rode his bicycle into the gate. The courtyard inside the gate was full of fallen leaves. The bicycle passed by, crushing the leaves, making a crisp sound. Chapter 710 Killing Net. Come in. Yukiishu is upstairs. Wang Feng stopped, sat on his bike, and turned around to say to Luo Yan outside the door. Luo Yan did not drive the motorcycle into the compound. He blinked, and circles of silver light lit up in his red eyes. I won't go in. Bring the person here. We'll trade here. Using words to delay Wang Feng, Luo Yan took the opportunity to look around. He did not hide his caution at all. This was normal. Wang Feng shrugged his shoulders, and pressed the communicator in his ear. Bring the person down. Hurry up. Don't let the guests wait impatiently. While Wang Feng was talking, Luo Yan first looked at the office building, and saw more than 5 groups of biological grey light in the office building. You know, according to King Neo, the only ones who chased them last night were Yinrang and his 4 cadres. Now that Wang Feng is here, there are only 5 people in the building, including Yukiishu. But now, Luo Yan saw that there were 4 or 5 biological grey lights on the 2nd floor alone. Looking at the surrounding buildings, there are nearly 20 biological grey lights. It seems that Yinrang should have left a team of people in the wild. That's why he was able to increase so many people overnight. I don't know if this is a backup plan left by Yinrang for himself to support his retreat. Or, did he rush to capture Yukiishu alive from the beginning, to exchange for the base diary in his hand? At this time, Luo Yan saw a team of people coming down the stairs in the main office building. One of the biological grey lights was obviously a woman, but when Luo Yan stared at the grey light, the following information popped up. Liu Shanshan, 26 years old, Huang Quinzan class cadre. Luo Yan's eyes changed slightly. Yukiishu was not in their hands. As Lin Yuanfang said, this was a trap. In an instant, Luo Yan cast the golden armor technique on himself in his cloak without making a sound, and then dragon scales appeared in some important positions behind his chest. When all these preparations were made, he suddenly twisted the throttle of the motorcycle, making a deafening sound in the silent night. Hearing the roar of the motorcycle engine, Wang Feng didn't know what went wrong, but he realized a serious problem. He shouted, "Do it, he's leaving. Wu Mu, shoot the car." Wang Feng's voice was still echoing in the building, and suddenly a flame burst out on the rooftop of a China merchant's bank across the street from the office building. A line of fire broke through the quiet night, and flashed into the motorcycle under Luo Yan's seat. Luo Yan's pupils dilated slightly, and he suddenly jumped off the motorcycle. The fire suddenly lit up below his vision, and then the fierce impact and blazing flames drowned his figure. Boom. The motorcycle exploded, and a fireball expanded and rose. Luo Yan's figure flew backwards. Before he landed, gunshots rang from all directions, and dense bullets poured down. The golden light on Luo Yan's body flashed away. After the golden armor withstood the explosion and a wave of bullets, the declaration was broken. Only then did Luo Yan fall to the ground. Wang Feng had already rushed over without saying a word. In the office building, the slender Liu Shanshan, like a giant demon king, rushed out of the 3rd floor window and the 1st floor door. Together with Wu Mu on the rooftop of China Merchants Bank and more than 20 firepower hands, they built an all-round, no dead-angle killing net, and covered Luo Yan fiercely. Wang Feng was the first to approach Luo Yan. At this time, he saw the red ghost who fell to the ground suddenly bounce up. That flexible figure and powerful posture did not look like an injured person at all. Wang Feng was shocked. Then, he saw the red ghost's cloak rise up, and several black dots were thrown at him. Under the moonlight, Wang Feng could see clearly that it was a grenade! 5. Fuck. Wang Feng hurriedly stopped. He was not good at physique. Even if he was in the advanced realm, if he was hit by a grenade in front of him, he would be skinned if he didn't die. As he fell to the side, the grenade was detonated by bullets fired from all directions, and the flames suddenly exploded. The hot and high temperature flames swept all around, and there were still fragments in the flames. In an instant, the impact of the explosion and the flash of flames made Wu Mu and other shooters' eyes sting. When the flames disappeared, they looked at the field again, and the figure of Chigi had disappeared. Wang Feng got up from the ground, slapped the flames on his body, and shouted, "Quick, quick, quick. Find the person out. Use the thermal imager." Someone in the headset quickly responded, "No, there was an explosion just now. The heat at the scene is too high. The target cannot be seen. This is the person who is responsible for monitoring Luoyan." "Damn it," Wang Feng shouted. Then there was a scream in the communicator. Then a report was received. No 4's life signs disappeared. He was killed. The target is in the Friendship supermarket. That is No 4's shooting position. Wang Feng immediately rushed across the street to the Friendship supermarket next to China Merchants Bank, and indeed saw a figure flash in the window inside. Then there was another scream in the headset. Another fireman in the supermarket was killed. Wang Feng yelled, "Wu Mu, find a way to stop him. Don't let him get away. Shan Shan, Mo Shan, outflank, outflank." Before tonight, Wang Feng, who was in charge of this operation, had formulated a plan that he thought was perfect. According to the plan, Jiuying would follow him into the office building. In the room where the transaction was to take place, he had already arranged some things in advance. For example, smoke containing neurotoxins, or primitive and cruel white phosphorus bombs. Even if Jiuying didn't enter the office building, it didn't matter. They would lay a net to make this captain of the Zuanming department go and never come back. But he didn't expect it. He had overestimated Jiuying as much as possible, but when he really met him, he found that he still underestimated him. First of all, he didn't know where the mistake was, so Jiuying didn't even make a deal and immediately planned to leave. Then he used the fire from the grenade explosion as a cover and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Now he showed amazing mobility and terrifying lethality. In less than a few seconds, he even killed 2 people. You know, in addition to these carters tonight, the team that Commander Yinrang transferred here is also quite strong. Although they can't be expected to entangle a high-level cultivator, Wang Feng never expected that these people would not be able to survive even 1 second if they encountered the red ghost. The target is moving quickly in the Friendship supermarket, and he is about to leave the supermarket. The monitor continued to report. At the same time, in the Friendship supermarket, Luoyan crashed out of a window. As soon as he came out, he heard a sharp and piercing sound in the night sky. He didn't need to look to know that Huang Quan had already used a rocket launcher. He identified the position by the sound, and the cloak was raised. A blood-red blur ripple broke through the air and passed by a shell fired at Luoyan. Sword Key. Chapter 711 Cross Star. Boom. The shell exploded violently after being cut by the sword, emitting golden flames, whistling and sweeping in all directions. Luoyan was blown away by the shockwave, and his cloak was stained with flames and burned, but was suppressed by his rolling. However, at this moment, the golden light on his shoulder flashed suddenly, and the second golden armor on his body almost collapsed. A bullet fell to the ground. At the same time, gunshots rang out on the rooftop behind. This was the sound of a sniper rifle. Luoyan immediately jumped up from the ground and crashed into an office building. At the moment of breaking through the window, his body shook. A golden light suddenly lit up in the corner of his eyes, and the golden armor was completely shattered. Amid the gunshots behind him, another bullet hit him, and after destroying the golden armor, it hit Luoyan's shoulder. With the foundation of viewing mountains and seas tempered, and the strong body strengthened by dragon scales, Luoyan forcibly knocked away the bullet, but his shoulder quickly turned red and his bones hurt, as if they were about to break. Luo Yan groaned, but he did not stop. In front of the passage, two elite soldiers wearing tactical helmets and bulletproof vests, armed to the teeth, flashed out. Holding up their rifles, they fired wildly at Luo Yan. The sound of gunfire resounded throughout the passage. The ejector of the rifle kept throwing out yellow shells like popcorn, ding dong, and fell at the feet of the two soldiers. Luo Yan rushed forward in the rain of bullets, and the two swords danced in his hands. The flying swords and bullets collided to create gorgeous fireworks. Wang Feng, who was desperately chasing outside the building, only saw Luo Yan's figure constantly rushing through the windows of the office building, and just passed by the two soldiers. A large blood mist exploded in the window, and then pieces of blood were sucked into the blood-colored vortex that Luo Yan hit. Wang Feng calculated Luo Yan's speed and direction, and suddenly threw a grenade. In the corridor of the office building, Luo Yan slid past two soldiers, and when his two swords crossed, two heads flew up and absorbed the blood of the two soldiers. The blood transformation sutra was constantly running, and the blood absorbed from the soldiers killed before had been transformed into a portion of blood essence. The blood of different life forms such as humans, beasts, insects, fish, and birds. The blood essence formed is different. As for humans, because of the different cultivation methods, blood essence is also different. After refining and forming blood essence, it can be driven and used, or to heal or kill enemies, or to produce various temporary special effects, etc. Now, Luo Yan absorbs the blood of ordinary people, so the blood essence formed can only be used to heal and replenish his own energy and physical strength. He consumed this blood essence without hesitation. He immediately became energetic, and the injury on his shoulder began to improve. However, although it was also a healing, it was obviously not as fast as the ghost life state brought by the Kazuan essence blood. At that time, Luo Yan consumed one ghost life to heal Luozi, and immediately made the seriously injured Luozi become lively. But the ghost life state of the Kazuan essence blood can only be used 5 times, and now there are only 4 times left. As for the blood essence transformed by the blood transformation sutra, as long as it continues to obtain blood and energy, it can be continuously transformed into blood essence. It can be seen that the blood transformation sutra can achieve the purpose of fighting to support fighting. At this time, Luo Yan heard a whistling sound. Then a strong and dazzling light lit up in the corner of his eyes, and along with the burst of light, there was a scream that made his brain hurt. The grenade thrown by Wang Feng was not an ordinary fragmentation grenade, but a special grenade developed inside Huang Quan, which could burst out strong light and generate screams. While taking away the target's vision, it also interfered with the opponent's perception. Just like now, Luo Yan not only lost his vision, but also his sense of balance and direction became blurred because of the piercing scream. This made Luo Yan in the passage stagger like a drunk, no longer as fierce and aggressive as before. Taking advantage of this opportunity, a gel-like elastic light surged around Wang Feng, wrapped his whole body, and he crashed into the window. But at this moment, he saw Luo Yan turned his head and looked at him. The eyes behind the mask were clear, as if he had recovered from the impact just now. How could he recover so quickly? A voice in Wang Feng's mind was screaming. The 2 knives in Luo Yan's hands had turned into a gorgeous but deadly light dance. Wang Feng defended with all his strength, but was chopped away by Luo Yan's 2 knives, and returned to where he came from. After chopped Wang Feng away, Luo Yan continued to move. Just as he climbed out of the window and left the office building, he suddenly felt a pain in his calf, and at the same time, gunshots rang out from behind. Sniper. Luo Yan staggered, fell and rolled uncontrollably, but quickly bounced up and turned around to crash into the alley that was as complicated as a spider web. Above, Wu Mu was moving on the rooftops of buildings with a sniper rifle. The voice of the monitor kept ringing in his ear. 13.5, 28.4, 14.8, 13.7. The monitor kept reporting some numbers that only Wu Mu knew what they meant. With these numbers, sometimes Wu Mu couldn't see the target, but a casual shot forced Luo Yan to change direction or penetrate obstacles to hit the target. I don't know how many times he was forced to turn around. Luo Yan swung his 2 swords and chopped off a iron window in front of him. His body passed through the window and rolled up. There was immediately a fist-sized hole on the ground behind him, and the sound of sniper rifles lingering outside the building. Liu Yan's eyes turned cold, knowing that if he couldn't get rid of this sniper, it would be difficult to break through the siege. At this moment, circles of silver rings appeared in his eyes. While moving, he looked back and locked onto Wu Mu's location. Wu Mu was also moving. When he crossed two rooftops, suddenly, a burst of momentum erupted from a low black building below. Wu Mu's nerves suddenly tensed up. He raised his left hand, and an alloy claw shot out from his wrist guard, grabbing the edge of a rooftop of a building on the left. With the help of this claw, Wu Mu changed his position in midair. At this moment, a blood-red rainbow light as thin as smoke flashed from the low black building below. The rainbow light passed the position where Wu Mu was just now, slanting upwards, and tore a hole in the rooftop of a building behind. Wu Mu just breathed a sigh of relief, and in the corner of his eyes, there was still the building and the blood-red rainbow light. But this time, the second rainbow light swept horizontally, sweeping Wu Mu's body. It formed a cross with the first rainbow light just now. Wu Mu's pupils dilated, and he felt his body lighten, and then he saw his hands, waist, and sniper rifle. All were cut by the blood-red rainbow light that just swept across. A unique skill. A long rainbow. 2 consecutive cross stars. Chapter 712 Encirclement and Killing. Whoosh. Wind blew through the sky, sweeping away the floating clouds, revealing a starry night sky and a silver disk hanging high in the night sky. Under the cold moonlight, 2 blood-red rainbows formed a cross. At that cross, Wang Feng saw Wu Mu. The man's body, along with the sniper rifle in his hand, scattered beside the cross. Snap. First, the half arm with the ring on the little finger fell to the ground, followed by the thigh, the sniper rifle, and the upper body that was still intact. Crackling. The broken limbs and arms hit the car, fell into the alley, and fell all over the ground. Wang Feng took a breath of cold air. Although Wu Mu was only at the advanced level, his sniper skills were an indispensable weapon on the battlefield. He did not die in the previous battles, nor in the final battle, but tonight, Wang Feng's pupils dilated slightly. At this time, the loud roar of Mosan sounded in the communication headset. Wang Feng, Wu Mu is dead. Wu Mu is dead. They were not very close in private, and sometimes they even had intrigues, but seeing Wu Mu's tragic death, they could not help but feel grief. Got it. Wang Feng followed with a roar. What are you waiting for? Detonate Area 3 immediately. Although Wu Mu was dead, he also forced the prey into a designated location. As soon as Wang Feng finished speaking, the area where Liu Yan was located was filled with explosions, and the rising flames and the splashing dust and smoke merged into one. The flames were blazing, and the smoke was billowing. The area had been razed to the ground. Wang Feng and others came to the vicinity, and a number of tanks surrounded the place, and the anti-aircraft machine guns mounted on the vehicles were pointed at the ruins that were still rising with smoke and burning with flames. He should be dead now, right? Liu Shanshan, who was wearing a leather jacket and had short silver white hair flying, whispered. Then Wang Feng's voice rang out in the communication headset. It's best not to be careless. The red ghost is more difficult than we thought. At least before the battle, I didn't think Wu Mu would die. The giant-like demon mountain took out a chicken leg from somewhere and bit it hard. He looked at the ruins in front of him in silence, but with a cruel expression. In the ruins, the smoke gradually dissipated. In the flickering fire, a rock shook, and then the knife flashed, and the rock fell apart. A figure stood up from behind the rubble. The cloak had turned into a strip of cloth, and the mask was blackened by the flames. The figure looked very embarrassed, but the eyes behind the mask were red as blood. He spit a chicken bone on the ground and broke a stone. The Demon King wiped his mouth. Sure enough, he is not dead. As he spoke, his body quickly dyed a steel gray, and in a flash, even his hair became harder than steel. Shenzang, body of steel. Boom. The Demon King collided his fists, making a sound of metal and iron, and strode into the ruins. Wang Feng also silently took off his headphones and twisted his neck, making a crackling sound. He then released his own energy and used a secret method to make the energy gradually become viscous, like gel, surging around him and changing into the shape of arms. From a distance, Wang Feng looked like the thousand-armed Avalokitesvara, with arms around him spreading out like a peacock spreading its tail. Secret method, condensing ki and transforming. Liu Shanshan spit out the chewing gum in her mouth, and the shadow behind her suddenly stretched out. In the shadow, a figure rose up. It was a python figure. This python was as thick as an adult's arm, with 2 red lights hanging on its triangular head. It hovered beside Liu Shanshan, opened its mouth and roared silently at Liu Yan. It seemed that it could move with Liu Shanshan and fight with her. Shenzang, confine the soul. The 3 cadres of Huanquan personally went down to form a triangular formation, encircling Liu Yan. Looking at Liu Yan, Wang Feng sighed. I never thought that the situation between us would develop to this point. Among the high-level cultivators I know, you can definitely be ranked in the top 3. To be honest, none of us has the strength to stop you alone. So we can only attack together. Moshan said in a muffled voice. Why waste your time talking to him? Kill him. He was already quite heavy, and now that he had used the divine treasure, his entire body became like a small mecha. As he took a big step and rushed towards Liu Yan, the ruins kept shaking, boulders kept falling, and Moshan ran so fast that the ground shook. As Moshan moved, Liu Shanshan also jumped onto the 3-meter-long illusory python that was looming and emitting black air. The python immediately moved with Liu Shanshan and pounced on Liu Yan from another direction. Wang Feng was the last one to act, and he lagged behind a little. He did not rush to attack. What he had to do was not to attack Liu Yan, but more to prevent the target from escaping. The momentum formed by the joint attack of the 3 high-level cultivators stimulated Liu Yan's hair to shake slightly. Liu Yan was not polite either. When he raised his 2 swords, a ball of blood light spread from his body, and in a blink of an eye, it covered the 3 senior cadres, the outer chariots and soldiers, and the ruins. Secret method, blood pagoda. Go to hell. Moshan roared, raised his foot, and kicked a rock on the road like a ball. Suddenly, a stone 1 meter wide hit Liu Yan like a cannonball. Liu Yan did not take this attack head on. His body shook, and he slid under the rock. Then he was met by the kick of the Demon King. The big man tightened his instep, and his big foot covered with steel grey plowed a deep groove in the ruins like a shovel, bringing up countless rubble and debris, like a football game, aiming at Liu Yan's head and shooting hard. But he only shot air. Before the big kick, Liu Yan had already moved away with the dragonfly skimming the water move, and then tentatively swung his 2 swords, slashing out 2 blood-colored blade ki, which collided with the left shoulder and waist of Moshan. But the blade ki only cut through Moshan's clothes, but could not cut through his steel-like body. The impact of the blade ki alone made the big man sway, and left 2 white marks on his steel grey skin. However, just like Liu Yan's previous sniper attack with his body, these 2 blade ki did not cut through Moshan's skin, but made his shoulders and waist ribs scorching. Moshan turned around and was about to counterattack, but unexpectedly, after the blade ki, several blood blades broke through the air, forcing him to cross his arms and defend. At this time, Liu Shanshan jumped into the air, and the snake spirit under her feet was as fast as lightning, opened its mouth, and bit Liu Yan's calf. This snake spirit was not a real thing, and it moved silently. Liu Yan was wrong to be cautious, and was afraid that he would not notice it until the snake spirit bit it. Now he jumped to avoid the bite of the snake spirit, but Liu Shanshan fell from the sky. With her silver hair fluttering, Liu Shanshan held a black dagger in her hand, and stabbed it towards Liu Yan's head. She used all her strength. The dagger broke through the air, making a crackling sonic boom, and stabbed into Liu Yan's skull quickly and fiercely. Chapter 713 Breakout. However, when the dagger pierced into the opponent's skull, Liu Shanshan felt that the feel was wrong. The red ghost in front of her suddenly shattered like a mirror. It was just an illusion. In the corner of Liu Shanshan's eyes, she saw another red ghost flashing, and the long knife turned into thunder and shot towards her. But between Liu Shanshan and the knife light, a demon mountain suddenly inserted. Bang! The demon mountain blocked the knife with his hand, roared, and rushed forward. The other hand flew up with his elbow and hit the target. Liu Yan did not intend to fight it head on. He touched the ground with his toes and slid back, so that the demon mountain hit nothing. Liu Shanshan took the opportunity to land on the snake spirit. The snake spirit swam flexibly, bypassed the demon mountain, and chased Luo Yan. At this time, behind Luo Yan, the arms formed by the Yuanli around Wang Feng were punching or palming, or smashing or slapping, attacking Luo Yan. The attack was intensive, with almost no flaws, forcing Luo Yan back. Luo Yan stood still, his two swords lowered, his red eyes rolling, his sight constantly moving between Wang Feng and the other two. Then four figures intersected, fist wind and sword light stirred, sparks and blood reflected each other. In the bloody killing, surprisingly no one made a sound, and no one retreated. Wang Feng and the other two knew that, if there was a flaw at this time, it would not be so easy to keep the red ghost, so even if they did not have the steel skin of Moss Han, Shan Feng and Liu Shanshan would often use their flesh and blood to block the shining knife tip. But at the same time, they would also bombard the opponent with fierce attacks. However, in comparison, Liu Shanshan was relatively better. In addition to biting, her snake spirit would often entangle Liu Shanshan to resist Luo Yan's two swords. Luo Yan's two swords dragged out a series of sword lights in the dark night, which were either clear white like the snow in the cold winter, or bright red. In the interplay of red and white, a series of sparks flew from the demon mountain, and a little blood was shed on Wang Feng and Liu Shanshan. But he himself had also suffered a lot of attacks. It was only because of the foundation laid by viewing mountains and seas, plus the strengthening of dragon scales, and the blood transformation sutra, that continuously extracted the opponent's blood and ki to heal his wounds. Luo Yan still stood firm, and his movements did not pause at all. Every knife was as vigorous and powerful as at the beginning. What kind of monster is this? Why can't I kill him? Wang Feng, think of a way. Seeing that the attack could not be carried out for a long time, Liu Shanshan became impatient. She was at the bottom of the three people's cultivation, and her elm was only one level higher than the dead Wu Mu. Moreover, she was not good at this kind of protracted battle. She was able to hold on for so long, because the snake spirit she had detained had thick skin and flesh, and helped her block countless knives. But now, the snake spirit was about to disintegrate. Once it disappeared, Liu Shanshan would definitely die in a few knives. So she was the most impatient among the three. Luo Yan realized this quickly. In the fierce fight, Luo Yan suddenly turned his head to look at Liu Shanshan. There seemed to be lightning in his red eyes. Liu Shanshan looked directly into Luo Yan's eyes, and suddenly felt a pain in her heart and brain. She screamed, and blood spurted out of her nose and mouth at the same time. Her mind was blank for a short time. Secret skill, eyes cut off flying geese. Influenced by this secret skill, Liu Shanshan's movement suddenly became sluggish, so one corner of this triangular formation was already shaky. Luo Yan seized this opportunity, and his figure flashed, and three figures appeared, rushing towards the three people in the field, all making fierce attacks. Footwork, the stars move. Facing this attack, that was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Moss Han and Wang Feng could only protect themselves for a while. However, Luo Yan's real target was Liu Shanshan. The one rushing towards Liu Shanshan was him. In a blink of an eye, the two figures crossed. Blood Drinker and Ring Dragon were like beasts that suddenly attacked people, and the silver white and blood red to color sword lights flashed wildly on Liu Shanshan. Liu Shanshan kept retreating, with blood spurting out of her neck, chest, and lower abdomen. When she stopped, her body trembled slightly, and there was a gurgling sound in her throat. Then she fell straight onto the ruins. Pieces of blood and ki were sucked away by Luo Yan's blood-colored vortex, and transformed into a portion of blood essence by the blood transformation sutra. At this time, Wang Feng realized that what was entangled with him was an illusion. Looking back, Liu Shanshan was already dead, and his temples were throbbing non-stop. Looking over again, after killing Liu Shanshan, the red ghost had already rushed towards an off-road vehicle. The soldiers on the vehicle raised their anti-aircraft machine guns and fired bang bang bang, trying to intercept. "Where are you running?" Wang Feng shouted. His yuan power burst out, and he suddenly raised his arm. The arms around him, like the thousand-armed Guanyin, continued to combine and condense into a huge palm, reaching out to Luo Yan like a dark cloud. Luo Yan was dodging the shooting when he suddenly felt a darkening above his head. Looking up, he saw a giant hand covering the night sky and slapping him in midair. This hand was so huge that there was almost no blind spot when launching an attack. This was a combat skill Wang Feng created by combining his own secret method, Xianluo Palm. The Xianluo Palm slammed on the ground, and the ruins shook violently, and thick smoke gushed out in all directions. When the giant hand disappeared into the air, a huge handprint appeared in the ruins. Luo Yan was lying in the middle of this handprint. His whole body was extremely shaken, his head was buzzing, and his nose was full of sticky blood. Although he did not break any bones, his internal organs were still shaken, and he suffered some minor internal injuries. Just as he was supporting his body with his two swords, the Demon King came to Wang Feng's side, shouted loudly, and pressed his two big hands to the ground. 4 seal mysterious coffins. Amid the roar, the ground around Luo Yan shook, and 4 walls flashing with strange symbols rose up. They sealed Luo Yan in the middle. At this time, Moss Han raised his hands again and made a downward motion. Seal the coffin. A coffin lid appeared out of thin air in the night sky, falling from the sky and completely sealing Luo Yan. Moss Han showed a grim smile and made a pinching motion with his hands. On the standing Zhuan coffin, thousands of symbols shone brightly and in an instant turned into a dazzling light. Boom. When the light was the most blazing, the Zhuan coffin exploded. Golden flames shot up into the sky and scorching air waves swept all around. After the explosion, a crisp sound sounded, like the sound of countless stones colliding violently with each other coming from the explosion site. Sealing and then exploding. This 4 sealed Zhuan coffins is exactly what Moss Han is good at. First, he was hit by the Xianluo Palm, and then he took a 4 sealed Zhuan coffins. Wang Feng really couldn't think of how the red ghost could survive such an attack, but he still didn't dare to be careless. He made a gesture and followed Moss Han on the left and right, carefully exploring the billowing smoke in front. However, at this moment, a column of grey mist suddenly spurted out from the thick smoke. This column of mist was filled with the breath of death and exuded a strong sense of death. It first sprayed on the body of the Demon Mountain. The Demon Mountain, who was proud of his body of steel, did not dodge or avoid it, but just blocked his eyes with his hands. Then the column of mist swept across Wang Feng, sweeping the nearby off-road vehicles and the soldiers on them. Wang Feng rolled out of the mist and hurriedly checked himself. There was nothing wrong. He was relieved. But suddenly he heard the Demon Mountain scream. Wang Feng looked back and saw that the steel grey body of the Demon King was constantly emitting green and yellow bubbles and emitting wisps of green smoke. The body melted and deformed, and in a blink of an eye, his 2 arms were peeled off, revealing white bones with a little skin and flesh attached. Chapter 714 Demonic Dragon Mist. Toxin? Or corrosive gas? Seeing that only bones were left in the hands of the mountain, Wang Feng's heart was in his throat. You know, the mountain's divine treasure has amazing defense, and it has a certain resistance to toxins and acidic substances. There is no reason why it should be so easy to corrode, and only bones are left, but the fact is that the mountain's body is still corroding. The strange thing is that his clothes are not affected at all. Save me. Wang the Mountain stretched out his hand to Wang Feng, and then he couldn't speak because his vocal cords had rotted. His face continued to collapse, and soon his nose collapsed, revealing 2 black holes. An eyeball bulged out and suddenly fell to the ground, like a broken egg. The vitreous body quickly rotted. In a blink of an eye, only a beige skeleton was left on the head of the mountain. At this time, screams were heard all around, and those soldiers who were sprayed by the grey mist were also corroded like the mountain, and their flesh and blood melted. Wang Feng was startled, and at this moment, he felt a burst of tingling all over his body. He lowered his head suddenly and saw that his hands first became red and swollen, and soon blisters appeared on his skin. The blisters burst with a sound of bow, and pus flowed out from them. Snap! A piece of skin and flesh fell to the ground, where the blisters had just appeared. It sizzled on the ground and quickly melted into blood. And this situation was happening all over Wang Feng's body. His hair began to fall, his face began to collapse, his vision began to become blurred, and his skin and flesh began to peel off. Wang Feng looked at the place where the 4 sealed mysterious coffins exploded with difficulty. This simple action caused a large piece of skin and flesh on his chest to fall off, exposing his white ribs. He looked with his only remaining eyeball and saw that the smoke there had dissipated and a figure was slowly straightening up from a half-kneeling posture. The red ghost was like a real evil ghost from hell. After enduring the attacks of the heavenly net palm and the 4 sealed mysterious coffins, he was still alive. Is he really immortal? This was Wang Feng's last thought, and then his brain melted like tofu pudding. He didn't see it. At this time, Luo Yang had blood flowing from the corners of his eyes and ears, but his body was covered with dragon scales, and a curved horn emerged from his forehead. Transformation into a dragon posture. But unlike before, when Luo Yan used this posture, the dragon scales on his body all glowed with a faint blue luster, and exuded a hint of coldness. This was the change, after absorbing the Shibi corpse blood essence. Permanent state, corpse Chaloma. This state greatly increased the defense of the transformation into a dragon posture. In addition, the grey fog that swept around just now and killed Mosshan, Wang Feng and others was the demon dragon mist. Demon dragon mist, the water mist containing a strong death aura, can be distributed around for self-defense. It can also be condensed and sprayed to kill thousands of miles away. This fog is extremely poisonous, corrosive, killing. Filthy god. In the ruins, Luo Yan looked around. As far as he could see, except for a creature in the distance that was fleeing in a hurry, there were no living things around. He released his transformation into a dragon posture, and his legs softened, almost falling to the ground. At the beginning, Luo Yan didn't expect the fight to get to this extent. He was just thinking about getting out of the siege. But he didn't expect that Huang Quan's arrangement was sophisticated and deadly. Moreover, Wang Feng and his companions, if we talk about individual combat power, although they are not as strong as Li Guang, but when the 4 of them join forces, they are quite powerful. If it weren't for Luo Yan's endless trump cards, other high-level cultivators would have died in Huang Quan under the front and back attacks of Heavenly Luo Palm and 4 sealed mysterious coffins. The unique skills, footwork, transformation into a dragon posture, and even the unused demon dragon mist were all brought out. Only then did they destroy this team. It can be seen that multiple high-level cultivators with an elite force have considerable lethality. This is because Yinrong, the Tongsuan realm expert, was not present. If Yinrong was to command this team, Luo Yan estimated that he could only take out the heavenly dragon pill to suppress the 4 directions at the beginning, and then leave quickly. Thinking of Yinrong, Luo Yan felt strange. Why was Yinrong not at the scene? Just now, since he saw through Huang Quan's arrangement, Luo Yan has been running around and had no time to stop and think. Now he feels suspicious. Yinrong should not abandon his confidant and run away. Moreover, Yukiashu is not here either. So it seems that Yukiashu did not fall into Huang Quan's hands last night. Then, Yinrong went to hunt her down. Are they still in the town? The killing net launched by Huang Quan was fierce. If they were still in the town, they should have discovered it. If Yinrong abandoned Yukiashu and returned here, the situation would be bad. Thinking of this, Luo Yan decided to leave immediately. As for Yukiashu, he could only meet up with Lin Yuanfang and make plans. At this moment, Luo Yan suddenly felt something in his heart. He looked up suddenly and looked at the government office building before. He saw that under the cold moonlight, there was one more person on the rooftop of the building. The man wore a mask with a venomous snake pattern, with one hand behind his back, and the other pointing to the sky. Behind him, a raging green fire shot up into the sky, and condensed into a green fire sword. As the man pointed to Luo Yan, the green fire sword behind him in the night sky seemed to be slow but actually fast, breaking through the air. Wherever the sword passed, the trees, street lights and even houses on the ground all sprayed green fire pillars. Luo Yan couldn't help but be moved. He only felt a great force of heaven and earth coming at him. This power that penetrated the sky and the earth, the mysterious power. It was the means of the Tongsuan realm. At the same time, Luo Yan also knew who that person was. Huang Quan's leader in the north, Yinrong. He finally came. He was also Tongsuan. But the pressure Yinrong put on Luo Yan was completely different from Gaolin's concept. Seeing that the green fire sword was flashing towards him, as if it was going to destroy the world, Luo Yan was about to activate the dragon transformation posture again, and fight with his back to the wall. At this time, He suddenly felt an unusual airflow around him. Whoosh! The strong wind lifted up the rubble on the ruins, and large and small stones soared into the sky, with a faint silver light connecting the stones. Thousands of rubbles turned into a huge stake-eye above Luo Yan's head. The jade fire sword crashed into the stake-eye, and the stake-eye pieces rotated, constantly absorbing and dispersing the jade fire. In a blink of an eye, the jade fire above Luo Yan's head continued, covering the sky and blocking the sun, cutting off his and Yunrang's sight. Go. At this time, a familiar voice came into his ears. Luo Yan looked back and saw a figure waving at him not far away. The jade sky fire burned for a few seconds before gradually extinguishing. As the jade fire fell down, the wind was agitated on the ruins, and a figure came to where Luo Yan was just now. Yunrang, wearing a mask, had a cold look in his eyes. He looked around, and a sneer came from the mask. Yukiashu, you bitch really can't bear to part with your little lover. Chapter 715 Shocking news. This is a boiler room. Of course, it has been out of operation for a long time. The boiler pipes with dials hanging on them have rusted to the point of breaking, and the wire mesh is covered with layers of spider webs. Luo Yan took off his mask, took out the battlefield medical kit he brought with him, disinfected the wound, applied wound medicine, and finally bandaged it. Drink some water. A kettle was handed over. Luo Yan raised his head and saw Yukiashu's eyes that seemed to be able to speak. It was Yukiashu who blocked Yunrang's attack before, giving him the opportunity to leave the battlefield and get this precious breathing opportunity. Luo Yan took the kettle and gurgled, pouring a lot of clear water into his mouth. Then he returned the kettle to Yukiashu. Yukiashu took it, wiped the mouth of the kettle with his hand, drank several sips of water, and then coughed a few times. Luo Yan then asked, have you been promoted to Tangxuan realm? If it weren't for the promotion to Tangxuan realm, Yukiashu would have found it difficult to resolve Yunrang's attack before. Yukiashu wiped the water stains from the corner of her mouth and nodded. I was just promoted during the new year. Otherwise, where do you think I get the confidence to jump out and say that I want to take on the responsibility and be the head of the Zuanming department? Then she said with a smile on her lips, what about you? Why are you here? Come to save my sister? I knew you care about her. Luo Yan put away the medical bag and said, I owe you a favor. I'm not used to owing favors to people. Yukiashu sighed. Can't you say something my sister likes to hear? She said with a bit of anger, you've already been here, and my sister is grateful for your favor. Now we are even, you can go. Luo Yan then checked the two long swords again. You saved me again just now. Yukiashu chuckled, sat down next to Luo Yan, and suddenly hugged Luo Yan. You said you don't like your sister, but look, you can't bear to leave. Luo Yan turned his head and looked at her calmly. Yukiashu rolled her eyes and took away her claws. Okay, I didn't expect that the wise and brave Captain Shigi would be such a stubborn person. However, anyway, I was still very touched when I saw you appear at the entrance of the town. After all, people like you and me will not easily take risks for others. It's either to repay a favor or to like my sister. You came. I'm happy. Luo Yan glanced at her. You knew I was here a long time ago. Yukiashu nodded and then said, don't blame me for not coming out to help earlier, because Yunrang has been waiting for me to show up. Originally, I thought that, if you could break through, I would not show up. What a pity. She shrugged her shoulders. No matter how much I calculated, I still couldn't predict Yunrang. Luo Yan thought of that shocking sword. If Yukiashu didn't take action at that time, Luo Yan asked himself that with the dragon transformation posture blessed by the corpse cold armor, he should have been able to withstand that blow. If she had played all her cards, she might have been able to escape from Yunrang's hands and even give him a little surprise. But Yukiashu didn't know she had so many cards, but she still played them. Thinking of this, Luo Yan couldn't help but say, if you don't play, you should have a chance to get out of this town. Maybe. Yukiashu suddenly hugged Luo Yan again, laughing. But who let my sister like you? How can I bear to see you die under Yunrang's sword? Luo Yan looked at her unmoved. Yukiashu was once again repelled by Luo Yan's eyes. Well, if I wasn't injured, I might really sacrifice you and escape. But I'm injured. Even if you attract Yinrang's attention, it will be difficult to escape. Yinrang is cunning. If you knew who he was, you would definitely say the same. Anyway, I wasn't sure at the time whether it was a trap to trick me into escaping from the town. Plus, I saw that you were able to kill so many of Yinrang's men alone. Especially the last column of fog, which turned 2 high-level realms and other elite warriors into bones. So I think, if we join forces, maybe we can get out of the town. Captain Chigi, you are so capable. You have so many cards hidden. You are not also in the Tangxuan realm, are you? Luo Yan said lightly. I don't have the hobby of asking for trouble. If he was in the Tangxuan realm, he wouldn't have to deal with Huangqin and others for so long. He would have broken the situation with force and killed them to escape. He asked again, are you seriously injured? Come, I'll treat you. I can't say you're fully recovered, but you should be able to recover most of it. Yukioshu looked at Luo Yan in surprise. You want to heal me? Do I need to take off my clothes, like in martial arts novels? Luo Yan didn't bother to pay attention to her. He activated the dragon transformation, used the ghost life state, and patted Yukioshu's shoulder. Suddenly, a stream of heat passed through her shoulder and flowed through Yukioshu's body in an instant. She felt as if her body was soaking in a hot spring, and she let out a comfortable groan that made her ears burn. It only took a few seconds. Yukioshu found that her injuries had indeed recovered most of it. She looked at Luo Yan in disbelief. Red Ghost, you have too many tricks. And the way you look just now is very similar to the abnormal posture recorded in the organization after merging with the blood essence of some giant beast. Not good. You let me see so many cards. You won't kill me to silence me, right? Luo Yan wanted to use tape to seal her mouth that kept talking. If possible, he certainly didn't want to expose so many cards. But now there is a Tangxuan realm expert wandering outside. Now only by cooperating with Yukioshu, the newly promoted Tangxuan expert, can we be sure to fight against Yinrang. Although Lin Yuanfang said that he would sneak into the town to assist them. But Luo Yan still trusts Yukioshu more. After all, they have cooperated many times and have common interests. In a short period of time, Yukioshu has no reason to turn against him. As for the cards, Luo Yan believes that, as long as he does not die, his cards will only increase. Even now, he has cards like Sword Shadow and Yuanshan Virtual Shadow. Even the Dragon Transformation posture has the Shibi Corpse Curse and Claws of Misfortune of Corpse Cold Armor, as well as Cheyenne Lang Pill and other sharp weapons that have not been used. It is good to expose a few cards to Yukioshu, which will help improve his value in her mind. Removing the transformation into a dragon posture, Luo Yan said, now your injuries are mostly healed. Just wait for Minister Lin to arrive. Maybe the one who should escape is Yinrang. Minister Lin? Lin Yuanfang? Yukioshu narrowed his eyes slightly. It seems that you don't know yet. That's right, I didn't tell you. Chigi, do you know who hurt me? It was that old guy Lin Yuanfang. And, he is Yinrang. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 716 Deceiving Yourself. Lin Yuanfang is Yinrang? Hearing this, Luo Yan was shocked. How is it possible? Yukioshu asked back. Why is it impossible? Luo Yan calmed down and said in a deep voice, when Henidai and his men returned to the camp, they brought back the news that you were captured by Yinrang. And they brought back Yinrang's request. Yinrang asked me to bring the base diary of Chunyu base and come here to exchange for your freedom. When I decided to go, Lin Yuanfang stopped me and said it was a trap. In addition, I have a secret method that can sense the truth of the other party's words. And at that time, Lin Yuanfang gave me the feeling that what he said was not against his heart. Yukioshu sighed. This is exactly his strength. Do you know why I was injured? Last night, Huangqin counterattacked. Beilu and others hid in this town. Seeing that the situation was hopeless, I sent the little girls away first. Although this exposed the target, my moon in the water is best at deceiving people. I originally had a chance to get away. But when he was taking action, Lin Yuanfang came. I saw him fighting Yin Rong and the other 4 cadres alone. I saw that he seemed to have a hidden injury and was not strong enough, and I heard him say that he came for me. He was even ready to die with Huang Quan. I saw that he was sincere, so I felt a sense of common hatred for the enemy. I showed up and killed the enemy side by side with him. Huang Quan was defeated and fled, and he wanted to chase him. The old man slapped me from behind silently, and that palm was going to kill me. I didn't notice it for a moment, but fortunately I had a secret method to replace it, so I was only injured but not killed. Afterwards, he even admitted in front of me that he was Yinrang. Luo Yan's pupils shrank slightly. If he hadn't heard Yu Qiushu's words with his own ears, Luo Yan would not have believed it. After all, he had peeked into Lin Yuanfang's heart. Unexpectedly, Lin Yuanfang would actually be Yinrang. Luo Yan frowned. Lin Yuanfang is the minister of Jiuying. His background should have been strictly examined. Why can he still become the leader of Huangquan? Yu Qiushu shook his head. I don't know about this, but Lin Yuanfang's condition was not very right at that time. He would talk to himself and talk to himself. I think he might have a mental problem. Maybe he played 2 roles and was too involved in both roles. When playing Lin Yuanfang, he always put the organization first and was loyal. When playing Yinrong, he was insidious and cunning and did everything he could. Because he was too involved, he even fooled himself. If I can fool myself, it shouldn't be easy to fool your secret perception. Luo Yan let out a long breath, adjusted his thoughts and said, so, now we can only rely on ourselves. What do you think is the chance of winning against Lin Yuanfang? In my current state, at most 20%. Yu Qiushu said with a smile, but with you, it's at least 30%. Luo Yan said, if we run into Lin Yuanfang, try to delay as much as possible, and it's best to get him to talk. The longer the delay, the better it will be for us. Luo Yan wanted to use the silver eyes of the Tao to analyze Lin Yuanfang's surface veins and look for flaws. If he finds them, coupled with the dragon transformation posture, dragon pill and other trump cards, the chance of winning is more than 30%, at least 50%. Moreover, when he saw Lin Yuanfang last time, Luo Yan noticed that his hidden injuries had not healed. In other words, the longer the battle drags on, the more disadvantaged Lin Yuanfang will be. Yu Qiushu stood up and smiled. As expected, he is the man I like. When facing a strong man who has reached the great perfection of Tungsten, the first thing he thought of was not to run, but to think about how to kill him. Delaying time should not be a problem. Lin Yuanfang is very conceited. I don't know how long he can delay. Luo Yan was about to respond, but suddenly felt something, and then heard Yu Qiushu shout, he's coming. The next second, the roof of the boiler room bulged, and then the bricks and steel bars broke into pieces, and countless green flames burst out from these fragments and poured down. Luo Yan and Yu Qiushu immediately retreated and dodged to the left and right, not letting the green flames touch them at all. At this time, the roof of the boiler room had been completely lifted up, and a figure fell from the sky and landed in the boiler room that had been ravaged by the green firestorm. A piece of open space was cleared here. The figure stood proudly in the open space, not caring at all about being stared at by Yu Qiushu and Luo Yan. Luo Yan used the secret method opening the ghost wheel, and retreated into a shadow, with circles of silver light appearing between his red eyes. Under the gaze of the peeping silver eyes, the figure's body appeared with extremely complex silver veins, which were at least twice as complicated as Li Guang in the advanced realm. In this way, it would take longer to fully analyze it. At this time, Yu Qiushu walked to the open space and sneered, Minister Lin is here, why don't you take off the mask on your face? What, are you ashamed to be seen? The figure chuckled, took off the mask, and threw it away. He had a high nose and sharp eyes, thick shoulders, and was calm and majestic. It was indeed the minister of Jiuying, Lin Yuanfang. Yu Qiushu crossed his arms and said, now, what should I call you? Lin Yuanfang? Or Yinrong? Lin Yuanfang. Yinrong is just a cover. Lin Yuanfang smiled and said, Captain Yu is really affectionate and righteous. Originally, you were hiding, and I wanted to find you in this town, but it would take 3 to 5 days. I didn't expect that you would show up for your little lover, which saved me a lot of time. Yukioshu smiled and said, of course, when I saw the red ghost for the first time, I fell in love with him, and would not marry him in this life. How can I stand by and watch him die? Lin Yuanfang's smile faded. He originally wanted to test Yukioshu's thoughts, but now Yukioshu admitted it openly, which made Lin Yuanfang dare not believe it. He was worried that he would believe Yukioshu's words wrongly and make a wrong judgment when he took action later. For example, when he thought that Yukioshu would not marry anyone but the red ghost and then attacked the red ghost with all his strength, Yukioshu took the opportunity to run away, which would be a loss. Compared to the red ghost, the person Lin Yuanfang wanted to kill more was Yukioshu. Otherwise, if Yukioshu was allowed to leave this town alive, his identity would be exposed, and he would then have to face the hunt of the Black Witch law enforcement team. At this time, Yukioshu said again, Minister Lin will surely not let us go tonight. Since we are doomed, I would like to ask Minister Lin a few questions. After all, even if I have to die, I want to die clearly, and I don't want to be a confused ghost. I wonder what Minister Lin thinks. Of course, if Minister Lin doesn't have confidence in himself and is worried that we will get away and reveal his secrets, he can do it now. Chapter 717 The whole story. Arrogant people often think that everything is under their control. Moreover, according to Lin Yuanfang's intelligence, Yukioshu was seriously injured and had not recovered yet, and the red ghost had just fought a battle, and his energy, physical strength and vitality were severely depleted. If he still dared not respond to Yukioshu's question, it meant that Lin Yuanfang had no confidence in himself. Luo Yan, who was hiding in the dark, secretly praised in his heart that Yukioshu's simple words could be used to trap Lin Yuanfang to delay time, and could also be used to test whether Lin Yuanfang had confidence in himself. Lin Yuanfang smiled and said, just pretend that I don't know that Captain Yu and the other two want to delay time, so that they can recover to a good state and fight with Lin. It doesn't matter. No matter how you struggle tonight, you are destined to be buried here. So, ask whatever Captain Yu wants to know. As long as Lin knows, I will tell you everything. So what? Yukioshu wanted to hear his words, and smiled calmly. I want to know, Minister Lin, when did you join Huangquan? Lin Yuanfang put his hands behind his back, looking relaxed, and shook his head and said, joined Huangquan? No, I didn't join Huangquan. I just used Yinrang's identity. A strange light flashed in Yukioshu's beautiful eyes. So, Yinrang is really the person? Of course. Lin Yuanfang smiled and said, after the giant beast disaster broke out, the entire surface of the earth was in chaos. In the first 1 or 2 years, Captain, you should also know that, even if our organization has its own satellite, communications have been greatly affected. During this process, there was a serious loss of information on many people and things. Yinrang came to the Northland under such circumstances. Speaking of this, I have to introduce you to the situation of Huangquan first. Huangquan is the same as our organization. Although I don't have definite evidence from the information provided by Yinrang and my own exploration later. The founder of Huangquan may also come from the giant beast strategic mansion. At least, they have explored Gixu. Therefore, there are many strange stories and secrets in Huangquan. But Huangquan is different from us. They don't believe in any gods. They think this place is hell. They knew about the existence of Yambu space long before the natural disaster, and they took action in various cities in the south before the natural disaster. They spread the word that the human world will sooner or later become hell, so for a period of time, they were severely cracked down by the authorities. Normally, even if they continue to develop, at most they will be like us, and eventually develop into a secret underground organization. But the natural disaster gave them the opportunity to rise. After the giant beast disaster, order no longer existed, and the surface was in chaos. In the 2 years after the natural disaster, Huangquan rose on the surface. Their original statements have now been confirmed. Therefore, in a very short period of time, they absorbed a large number of survivors from the surface as the cornerstone of the organization's development. Today, at least half of the surface forces, various bases and survivor camps in the south, have fallen into Huangquan's pocket. and Yunran was sent to the north to investigate, wanting to establish a base so that Huang Quan could gain a foothold in the north. Eventually, let Huang Quan's power infiltrate. In the shadows, Luo Yan analyzed Lin Yuanfang's superficial thoughts while thinking back to what Luo Yu had said and the contents of Li Guang's notebook. Verifying what Lin Yuanfang said at this moment, Luo Yan felt that this man's inference about Huang Quan might be correct. Huang Quan or Heli Wu, their founders were all people who had explored Gixu. It was unknown what they found in that world and what kind of baptism they received, so they created such an organization. This made Luo Yan yearn for Gixu infinitely, thinking that if he had the opportunity in the future, he must go to Gixu to take a look. So, you have been in contact with Yunran? Yukiishu's voice rang out, allowing Luo Yan to refocus his mind on this boiler room. Lin Yuanfang smiled and said, contact? More than that. Yunran died at my hands. Yukiishu didn't seem surprised. Oh, so, after you got the information about Huang Quan from Yunran, you pretended to be him? I see. The surface communications were affected at the time, and Yunran might not have been able to contact Huang Quan all the time, so this gave you a rare opportunity, allowing you time to figure out his situation, so that there would be no flaws in impersonating him. Lin Yuanfang laughed and said, Captain Yu is really smart. No wonder he has already started to challenge the position of minister at such a young age. With time, Captain Yu might be able to serve as our Zuiao, or even the position of Xiao Siming. Yukiishu said with a smile. In that case, why don't Minister Lin let me go? I promise not to report you to the organization. Lin Yuanfang snorted and said, Captain Yu is joking. This matter is so risky. I dare not gamble. Yukiishu shrugged and didn't take it to heart. Lin Yuanfang continued, your guess is correct. I also discovered Yunran by chance. He was injured in a forbidden area at that time, so I had the opportunity to capture him. In the following months, I used all means to get all the information he knew from Yunran, and in one of the information he revealed, I learned something interesting. It was because of this that I decided to impersonate him, but as for what it is, it has nothing to do with you, so let's not talk about it. Lin Yuanfang glanced at the boiler room casually. After impersonating Yunran, I took advantage of my position as the head of the Jiuying department to sell a lot of information to Huang Quan, thereby gaining Huang Quan's trust. I also got some secret techniques from Huang Quan, which made Lin's cultivation progress by leaps and bounds. Lin used Yunran's identity and made painstaking arrangements for a long time, and finally persuaded Huang Quan to start marching into the north. Unfortunately, Huang Quan was still too cautious, and the people they sent over were not the top figures among them, and the resource support they provided was also very limited. Otherwise, it would be more than just 2 surface bases in a year. But even so, it still aroused the vigilance of the Black Witch, and I did not expect Captain Yu to decide to start a war. I did not care at first, but I never thought that Captain Yu and your lover were so capable. In a short period of time, they uprooted my arrangements in the north. My hard work has been wasted. Therefore, you will deserve to die. After you die, I will take over the power of the Zuanming department. It can more or less make up for my losses in this war. Okay, I have said everything I should say. Now please get on the road. Boom. The green flame rose from under Lin Yuanfang's feet, with amazing momentum, reflecting a rich green color on the entire boiler room. Chapter 718, 24 Solar Term Sword. Lin Yuanfang is about to attack. Luo Yan's eyes condensed, his expression serious. Now, in his field of vision, Lin Yuanfang's surface veins have only been analyzed halfway. It will take more time to fully analyze. However, it is not bad that Yukiishu can drag it out for so long, which is better than starting a fight right away. Luo Yan immediately activated the Prophet and embedded the analyzed part of the veins into the measurement model. The originally blurred outline of the light body became much clearer, adding many details and textures, but because the surface veins have not been fully analyzed, the face of the light body is still blurred. Luo Yan did not rush to attack. He knew that he and Lin Yuanfang were one realm apart, and he would not get any good results if he acted rashly. This tough battle requires Yukiishu, a woman who has just entered the Tangxuan realm, to be the main attacker. to attract Lin Yuanfang's attention. Luo Yan will contain and harass. Before the analysis is completed and Lin Yuanfang's flaws are found, unless the dragon transformation posture is activated, it is almost impossible to threaten Lin Yuanfang, a Tangxuan great perfection strongman, from the front. Yukiashu also understood this, so when Lin Yuanfang's key was open and the green fire was rising, she also practiced the skills and launched her charge from the front to attract Lin Yuanfang's attention. After entering Tangxuan, when Yukiashu practiced the skills, circles of hazy light lingered around her. These lights are Zuan Qi. After entering Tangxuan, the Yuan Li is refined into Zuan Qi. As an energy close to Gang, the quality of Zuan Qi is completely incomparable to Yuan Li. Although Yukiashu is now surrounded by light, it protects Yukiashu several levels higher than the Yuan Li level. Moreover, Yukiashu has just entered Tangxuan, and the Zuan Qi she has refined is limited. If it is a great perfection, it should be as powerful as the green fire rising around Lin Yuanfang. Yukiashu notes that the skills Lin Yuanfang practiced are purple extreme gives birth to green. This is the skills of Tangxuan realm. In the advanced realm, Lin Yuanfang practiced purple Qi comes from the east, which is the foundation of purple extreme gives birth to green. In the advanced realm, when Lin Yuanfang released his Yuan Li, purple flames would be generated, but in the Tangxuan realm, the purple flames were refined into jade fire. This jade fire was the external manifestation of Lin Yuanfang's Zuan Qi. Although Luo Yan didn't know as much as Yukiashu, in his silver eyes of peering into the Dao, he saw that in addition to blood and Yuan Li, Lin Yuanfang also had another set of values, the value of Zuan Qi. At this time, Yukiashu had already approached from the front, without any tricks, and punched Lin Yuanfang in the face. Lin Yuanfang smiled faintly and said, "Captain Yu, if I remember correctly, your moon in the water should have two characteristics, water phase and illusion phase. Just like the moon in the water, you can see it, but you can't touch it. So if you want to use the moon in the water to deceive me, aren't you underestimating me a little bit?" As he spoke, Lin Yuanfang ignored Yukiashu's punch in the face, raised his hand, and the jade fire roared, condensing into a long sword in his hand. Lin Yuanfang thrust his sword towards the empty space on the left, but at that position, Yukiashu appeared, and was pierced through the chest by Lin Yuanfang's sword. Lin Yuanfang clearly felt that his jade fire long sword had not pierced the real thing. In other words, this Yukiashu was also the moon in the water, and was fake. A palm slapped Lin Yuanfang silently, but before it hit, a green light rose up and blocked the palm. The palm hit the green light, and the green light suddenly shattered, like swaying water waves. With a bang, Lin Yuanfang was shocked, and took several steps back. When he moved his sight, he saw the figure of Yukiashu who appeared on the right, retracting his palm and retreating. "Minister Lin, you may have forgotten that I have entered the realm of Tangxuan. If the moon in the water is still used in the same superficial way as before, it will be a joke." While speaking, in the boiler room, one after another Yukiashu appeared. No matter their expressions, appearances, and auras, they were all the same as Yukiashu, and it was difficult to tell the real from the fake. Lin Yuanfang laughed and said, "I underestimated Captain Yu. Then, Captain Yu, help me see how well Lin's 24 solar term sword has been mastered." After saying that, he raised his sword. In the rising green fire, long swords condensed from green fire hung upside down around Lin Yuanfang. Lin Yuanfang said lightly, "Sword 1, beginning of spring." Among the 24 green fire long swords, one of them flashed away and stabbed Yukiashu's figure. The sword body silently turned into a continuous green fire, just like the continuous spring in early spring, covering the figure in every possible way. Sword 2, rainwater. Sword 3, waking of insects. Lin Yuanfang used sword after sword, and the rising green fire continued to turn into long swords to attack, and each sword secretly matched the meaning of the solar terms. For a while, the boiler room was filled with sword rain and summer thunder. Beginning of spring, rainwater, waking of insects, spring equinox, tomb sweeping day, grain rain, beginning of summer, grainfall, grain in ear, summer solstice, minor heat, major heat. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yuanfang had already used 12 sword techniques. The boiler room was filled with green and the sword light was flashing. Yukiashu was killed so hard that she could only dodge and defend and had no strength to fight back. But Luo Yan saw that she was agile and had a smile on her face and knew that she still had a strong strength to fight back, so he didn't care and continued to analyze the surface veins of Lin Yuanfang. Beginning of autumn, end of heat, white dew, autumnal equinox. Lin Yuanfang used 4 more swords, and suddenly, the boiler room was filled with heat waves, and then there was a sense of autumn. After a few swords, only a few traces of Yukiashu were left. Beginning of autumn, cold dew, frost descent, beginning of winter, light snow, heavy snow, winter solstice. Around Lin Yuanfang, 7 more long swords of green fire flashed away, some with sword lights as cold as frost, and some with sword flowers, as if a winter snow had fallen. After a few sword strikes, Yukiashu's figure was reduced to only 1. Lin Yuanfang laughed. Captain Yu, don't tell me that's all you can do. After that, the remaining 2 long swords beside him flew away, shaking off a piece of icy sword light, making the boiler room feel like winter. The last 2 solar terms. Minor cold, major cold. Just as Lin Yuanfang used the last 2 swords, behind him, a breath of violent and exciting suddenly appeared. Then a blood-colored rainbow light as thin as smoke came in an instant and hit Lin Yuanfang's back, but was blocked by a faint green around him. A unique skill, a long rainbow. Luo Yan seized the opportunity that there was no solar term sword around Lin Yuanfang and switched from KIR wheel to KON wheel. He burst out his Yuan force and used his unique skills. However, the blood-colored rainbow light kept washing away the faint green behind Lin Yuanfang, but it could not cut a hole and only made the green fade. When the rainbow light disappeared completely, it still could not break the green behind Lin Yuanfang. Luo Yan's eyes condensed. If it weren't for the fact that Lin Yuanfang's Zuan Qi value had decreased in the sword energy just now, Luo Yan would have doubted whether his sword was useless. At this time, Lin Yuanfang's Yuan force value had decreased, but the Zuan Qi value had increased a little. Obviously, he refined the Yuan force and transformed it into Zuan Qi. 29, meaning 20. Chapter 719. Key condensation clothes. Captain Chigi finally showed up. I didn't expect that. Captain Chigi is younger than I thought. You are so young, but you have such outstanding abilities. No wonder Captain Yu looks at you differently. Lin Yuanfang glanced at Luo Yan calmly, and then looked at Yukiashu who had cracked the 2 swords of minor cold and great cold. It's just that the secret method of KPO Lun, or the unique skill of looking at the sea tide, they are all tricks played by children below the advanced realm. Captain Chigi is using them to greet me, which is a bit contemptuous. Luo Yan was silent. Lin Yuanfang was right. The secret method of KPO Lun and looking at the sea tide are things that can be practiced below the advanced realm. Using them to greet a Tangxuan realm is like a child hitting an adult. It is indeed a bit not good enough. Luo Yan can only show off the secret method of Zufu 2 and the unique skill of 10 steps 1 kill. But 10 steps 1 kill can only exert its maximum power when it enters within 3.5 steps of the opponent. Luo Yan knew how dangerous it was to rashly approach a Tangxuan realm expert. Minister Lin is right. Yukiashu's voice rang out. She still looked relaxed after dissolving the 24 solar term sword. The tricks played by Captain Chigi's children are far inferior to Minister Lin's 24 solar term sword. Minister Lin's 24 solar term sword seems to have already faded to the level of transformation. Although it is a combat skill, this combat skill that can only be practiced in the advanced realm is not much worse than the low-grade unique skills in Minister Lin's hands. Lin Yuanfang laughed and said, Captain Yu, you are too kind. Look, Captain Chigi has also appeared. Let's stop here for this warm-up. What do you think? Yukiashu smiled faintly. Minister Lin wants to get serious, and I will accompany him. Then come on. Lin Yuanfang stretched out his hand and the green fire around him immediately rolled back, whistling and wrapping around his body, turning into a light blue long-sleeved robe. The robe transformed by the green fire was wrapped with 2 ribbons, making Lin Yuanfang look like a fairy at this time. Secret method, condensing ki into clothes. Luo Yan remembered the information he got when he spied on Lin Yuanfang that day and knew that this was one of his secret methods. He also has another secret method, called performing the god's Nuo mask, but I don't know what the effect is. But this secret method of condensing ki into clothes, there is no doubt that the light blue robe on Lin Yuanfang has greatly improved his defense. Now if you want to break this fire robe, you may have to use one kill in 10 steps to have a chance of doing it. These thoughts flashed through Luo Yan's mind like lightning. Under Lin Yuanfang's stimulation, he also opened his own secret method, Blood Pagoda. A blood light immediately spread from Luo Yan's body, covering the entire boiler room. Illusionary blood water floated on the ground. Luo Yan exuded a terrifying fierceness and hostility, like a war ghost walking out of Shura Hell. One of the 3 evil methods, Blood Pagoda. Captain Chigi really has a lot of trump cards. Lin Yuanfang glanced at Luo Yan, and then looked at Yukiashu. Yukiashu was now surrounded by illusory water flows, which kept turning and flowing between Yukiashu's chest, hands and legs. The flow of water never stops. Lin Yuanfang revealed Yukiashu's secret method in one sentence. I heard that Captain Yu's secret method has both offensive and defensive functions, and can also resolve attacks by itself. But the most amazing thing is that it gathers the aftermath of the attack and transforms it into Yuan Li Zuan Qi to replenish itself. Yukiashu said calmly, Minister Lin's condensed ki clothes is also not much worse. It seems that it only condenses a Zuan Qi into the appearance of long clothes, but in fact it presents the Zuan Qi in a very high density. Different Zuan Qi will have different effects after forming long clothes. Take Minister Lin's purple extreme green for example. The surface temperature of this green dress should be terrible. If you are unprepared and approach rashly, I'm afraid that before you can attack, you will be burned to ashes by Minister Lin's green fire. Luo Yan's heart moved when he heard this, knowing that Yukiashu was talking to him. The two belonged to the same organization and were very familiar with the secrets of the skills that could be exchanged in the organization. Therefore, they were able to undermine each other and reveal the secrets of each other's secrets. Luo Yan was now more cautious about the blue dress on Lin Yuanfang. If Yukiashu hadn't pointed it out, he couldn't feel the heat of the blue dress at all in this position. If he rushed forward rashly, he would definitely suffer a great loss. Lin Yuanfang said no more. He waved his hands, and the 2 streamers on the blue dress spun around him. Then one swept towards Yukiashu, and the other hit Luo Yan. Luo Yan didn't dare to be careless. He slid to the side to dodge, and at the same time, he slashed with both swords, emitting 2 blood-colored sword ki to attack Lin Yuanfang. He didn't expect the sword ki to hurt Lin Yuanfang at all. The purpose of doing this was to trigger the blood blade attack, so as to accumulate the number of attacks, and start the blood offering. After starting the blood offering, each level of the pagoda can increase the attack power, and increase the attack range. Luo Yan wanted to maximize the attack range of 10 steps 1 kill, to crack Lin Yuanfang's blue dress, and create an opportunity for Yukiashu to attack. The sword ki was across the sky, just as he had expected. 2 blades of energy slashed at Lin Yuanfang's green clothes without causing any ripples. Then blood rose up and turned into 4 or 5 blood blades, which hit the green clothes. The blood blades collapsed, and the green clothes were not hurt at all. At this time, Luo Yan saw that Lin Yuanfang's Zuan Qi value had slightly decreased. The decrease was not large, but it was not completely unchanged. This prevented Luo Yan from despairing. Although it was difficult to break Lin Yuanfang's green clothes, it could at least consume the opponent's Zuan Qi. But, at this time, Lin Yuanfang's streamer suddenly disintegrated, bursting into millions of fireflies, and turned into a sky full of fireflies that swept over. Luo Yan was familiar with this move. That day in the Forbidden Area Valley of Sorrow, when Lin Yuanfang was driving a mecha, the streamers on the mecha had the same effect. Seeing the sky full of fireflies attacking, Luo Yan was not in a hurry. He waved his 2 swords, and turned into 2 colorful balls, 1 silver and 1 red, to resist the attack of the sky full of fireflies. Ding ding dang dang. The sound continued. The green fireflies transformed from Lin Yuanfang's rib and danced all over the sky like locusts passing through, but Luo Yan's double swords basically blocked them. The fireflies swept around, seemingly without any pattern, but in fact, it was not. Their attacks still had traces to be found. The prophet light body calculated the attack pattern of the fireflies, so Luo Yan did not panic. However, the attack of the Tangsuan realm was extremely fierce. Luo Yang blocked it, but was knocked back again and again. Moreover, he was entangled by these fireflies, and he could not spare his hands to attack Lin Yuanfang, so he could not accumulate the number of attacks and start the blood sacrifice. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.